to fine leg for a single. A bit of urgency about the running here for Sri Lanka. It has, as Daggers was just saying, been a difficult tour for Sri Lanka. It's been a very good little tour for England, just to kind of work out the resources, particularly in the T20s ahead of that T20 World Cup. Also just to reinforce that dominance in one-day cricket. But the Sri Lankans, I mean, that's a difficult tour, staring down the barrel of a 6th consecutive defeat. And, very few bright spots. Well, if there is one, I suppose it would be De Silva. He'd be amongst them as Woakes in once again, back of a length, just defended to point for no run. Yeah, Dhananjaya De Silva delighting that Oval crowd a few days ago with his 91. Fell just short of that century, but was a very impressive innings.
Another early strike, well, 2 early strikes for David Willey, whose form in the build-up to the World Cup when he was left out. I think one of the reasons he was left out was because he ceased taking early wickets. He was quite effective in the first couple of years of his career.
As Chris Woakes comes in again, still with the slip in place, this time left alone through to the keeper. For no run, the ball just tailed in a little bit. Sorry, Andy.
But from the start of the 2017 English summer up to the World Cup, and he was dropped after playing some of the warm-up games. In 20 innings, he'd only taken 7 wickets inside the first 10 overs. He was averaging over 70 in the bowling power play, and then England brought in Jofra Archer to replace him in the team to great effect. Since the World Cup, he played the 3-match series with Ireland last year, took 7 wickets in 3 games in the first 10.
Woakes in once again, back of a length this time, just defended to backward point for no run.
And in the 3 matches in this series, he's struck in each match twice today, so 4 in the 3 games so far inside the opening power play. So in 6 games since he was left out of the World Cup squad, 11 wickets inside that opening power play after only taking 7 in his previous 20.
That's very impressive. It's even more so when the first over that he bowled, it didn't look like he was finding that swing that he was looking for. The batsman looked quite comfortable getting behind the ball and driving it. So he showed a few dimensions to his game as well. He has a short ball from Woakes, has been pulled high up in the air. Will it be taken at fine leg? Yes, it will. Adil Rashid with the catch. England have 4. Sri Lanka's woes continue. 42 for 4. And it's the form man, Dhananjaya De Silva, who's gone for 4 runs. As the misery is compounded for Sri Lanka.
Well, Chris Woakes has been arrested in between these 2 games, and the way he put that bouncer in, he fully bent his back, got that ball up, really awkward height. It was actually quite far above the head. In many ways, he didn't have to play it, but what happened is he got surprised. He didn't see that extra lift and pace coming. But just looking at how he dug that in, it's incredible because he's got that full one that's swinging and tempts you in and gets you in trouble. When someone can just surprise you out of nowhere with not too much of a change in action and then gives it a bit of oomph that gets up like that, there's not many who will be equipped to be able to handle that. Brilliant bowling from Woakes.
We saw a lot of really quality short bowling from Chris Woakes in Durham as well, where he really put Sri Lanka under pressure with that short ball. They struggled with it. It's almost like, as you said, it's something perhaps they didn't consider was going to be such a big part of England's arsenal. Well, it's the form man who's been dismissed, and another form man for Sri Lanka. Well, again, one of their few bright sparks on this tour. Wanindu Hasaranga is going to come into the crease. He got a very impressive 50 at Durham in that first one-day international, and 26. Looked good for his 26 at the Oval as well. It's quite telling of your tour, isn't it, when scoring a 26 is one of the highlights?
Yeah, it's not been great, has it, for them? I mean, for him, he's shown a bright spark. He's had the opportunity to get moved up because of the 3 players who are off. Yeah,
it's been very challenging for sure. It's been an exceptionally challenging tour for Sri Lanka on and off the field. But if they were making a list of pros and cons of this tour, wins and losses, Dhananjaya De Silva and Wanindu Hasaranga, the new batsman, he'd certainly be in there. Just a reminder, you can watch all the wickets that have fallen today and all of the other highlights on the cricket section of the BBC Sport website and app. And there's a highlight show on BBC Two and BBC iPlayer a little bit later on tonight as well. So tune in for that as Chris Woakes comes in and bowls, and firmly behind the ball in defence is the batsman. So 42 for 4 after 9 overs. England very much in control. and appreciated by this crowd of 8,000 people here at Bristol today, who braved the rather negative weather forecast. We're getting some good cricket in. Andy Saltzman.
Well, a third successive awful start for Sri Lanka. They were 46 for 3 after 8.1 overs in Durham. Then Hasaranga had a bit of a stand with Kusal Perera to get them into a better position. Then 12 for 3 in the 4th over at the Oval. Then 21 for 4 shortly after that. And today, once again, 4 wickets down inside the opening power play. In 3 power plays in this series, Sri Lanka, with 1 over to go, have lost a total of 11 wickets.
Wow, it's been a really fruitful period for England. On the flip side, I suppose, as Willey's going to continue. Got 2 slips in a gully as the next ball has been worked to short, fine leg. They run through for a single. It's good running. It's just to the right of Adil Rashid, that fine leg inside the circle. And Oshada Fernando on to 5.
I'm a fan of Hasaranga. I keep saying this is his time to get up the order while the 3 got rested. I was just looking at his numbers as well. Strike rate of 105.
Yeah.
Very, very good.
Yeah.
Average 29. If you can get that to 35, then I think you start getting considered as a batter, and then push it a bit more. So if there was ever a time to get a few more runs to add to that average, it's now.
He looked very impressive. I think the first kind of standout moment on this tour for him was those first 2 T20s in Cardiff, where he was very economical and got wickets as well. But now he's showing skill with the bat as well. As in comes David Willey, nearly takes the outside edge as Hasaranga just pulls his bat inside the line, and the ball goes through to the keeper. England still dominant. Yeah, I mean, he's been, like, as Sri Lanka will come through this tour, and Mickey Arthur, I mean, we don't know what the future holds for him, I suppose, but as he looks to rebuild this Sri Lankan team, he'll look at players like Wanindu, Hasaranga and Dhananjaya de Silva, and probably, Dushmantha, Chameera as well. These are the players that he can look at and think, right, I've got a starting point here. How do I build a team around this? As David Willey turns and he's back into his run. He bowls a full ball. It's been driven back to him. He partially fields in his follow-through. It's enough to prevent the run. 43 for 4.
Sometimes there's only so much you can do as a coach as well. You can give all the information, go through all the game plans, everything you want. I've had coaches tell me everything right, and you go out in the middle and you see something completely different, and you think, oh, hold on, I wasn't doing that in training. I wasn't doing that with my coach. But sometimes it's the pressure and it's the atmosphere or it's the conditions that...
Yeah, as in comes Willey, full balls driven through the covers this time. There is a sweeper out there, so just a single taken.
That game when it was the last T20, was it, when they all just played waft shots?
Yes.
It might have been the last T20, and Mickey Arthur gave a pretty strong interview after. It might have been the second or the third. You just sense that was not talked about in the team. It might have been, let's play with a bit of purpose,
yes,
or intensity. That was nothing that would have been in a team talk.
It was the game of the Ageas Bowl where Sri Lanka were bowled out for 91 in 18.5 overs. They didn't show any of that restraint, as you say. As in comes Willey this time, just going down the leg side. It has been given a wide by the umpire, and it's an easy call for umpire Robinson. 45 for 4. Yeah, it's been, I mean, for Sri Lanka, obviously it's been miserable. And as you said, as a coach, it must be so frustrating. You have to show so much restraint. Like, your instinct when you see somebody doing something wrong is to go and, no, this is how you do it. As a coach, you have to just kind of sit there and smile for the cameras and wait to be memed.
Caught on camera.
In comes Willey again, full ball driven to mid-on, and again there is no run. Lots of oohs and ahs coming from the field right now. There's a great sense of camaraderie about this England team. I noticed that as Adil Rashid took that catch, Jason Roy ran towards him and did a little jig, a little dance as he was running towards him, and they were all just kind of laughing and happy. It's a tale of two teams right now. One who is really, really down in the dumps, had troubles on and off the field, really struggled in a 6-match spell, where England just building confidence with every game. As David Willey, once again, full born, just teasing that outside edge as it goes through to the keeper for no run. Excellent over there from David Willey. And Sri Lanka 45 for 4 after 10 overs. And that's been another fruitful power play for England. They just can't stop taking these Sri Lankan wickets.
Yeah, they are. It's first of all, early swing was the key, and they pitched it up and they got the opportunities, plenty of outside edges, and then I think it was also the skill later on with Woakes, who was able to just bowl that change-up ball, the short ball. But talking about team camaraderie, I always found when you're winning, that actually becomes so easy because everybody's kind of just delighting in it. It's when you're up against it, like Sri Lanka are, even if you were getting on when you arrived, everything just sort of starts to grey and everyone starts to, at some point, blame it's the bowler's fault, it's the batter's fault. It can be harder then. So
absolutely. I mean, power play 2 is about to start. Big comeback actually from England in this power play. The first 2 overs went for 19 runs, and to get them to 45 for 4 anyway. Woakes in now, short this time, and just played off the back foot to point by Hasaranga for no run. Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. For England, I mean, Sri Lanka have this issue where they're finding it difficult to string a sequence of performances together. Yeah, we talk about De Silva, scoring 91 at the Oval, out for 4 today. England have kind of filled in all the gaps, like the question marks have all been answered. Eoin Morgan was struggling for form, gets himself a nice 70-odd not out at the Oval. It's Woakes in once again, this time a little bit fuller, pushed just wide of the fielder at point by Hasaranga, and they run through for a single. Sri Lanka on to 46 for 4. So England just plugging those little gaps, all the question marks. They're tidying up their team in a way, just doing a little bit of housekeeping, getting the right players, the right amount of time in the middle. Question marks about Woakes and not having seen him for a while. He comes and puts in a big performance. Sam Curran just reminding everybody, how skilled he is, particularly with a swinging ball. So England are looking very, very good at the moment. As in comes Chris Woakes, this time straight to ball, played back to him defensively for no run.
The only thing I'll say about that, though, let's say you get a 70, but you get it against a weakened Sri Lanka team.
Sure.
You most probably, as a batter, I still wouldn't feel in form if I knew I was playing Australia tomorrow.
Or Pakistan next week.
Or exactly, or Pakistan next week, who will be coming with a lot more pace, a lot more fire, a lot more of a threat. So,
and a more settled team as well. As in comes Woakes, this time just straying a little bit onto the leg side, played into that short leg area by Fernando. No run scored.
Yeah, so I think they'll also be conscious that these performances are in context. And that's why I think Eoin Morgan is continuing to be ruthless. He doesn't want to overly chop and change. Even now, I was thinking he could have rested Woakes at the start of the power play. He wants him to keep going again. Yeah. I think they're aware that you just got to keep hardcore chipping away, not getting too fancy.
Yeah.
Because actually there's a big threat around in not too long from now.
Woakes in once again, short ball, this time just swayed out of the way, did Oshada Fernando as the ball went through to the keeper for no run. You're absolutely right, Ebony. He's just relentless. Eoin Morgan doesn't, winning is always the first, second and third priority for him, and winning as efficiently as possible, managing his resources. If along the way he can get a look at certain people, because there's been opportunities in this series for England to, mess around with the order a little bit, maybe promote so-and-so. He's kind of stuck very much to the most efficient game plan possible, which is admirable, you have to say. As in comes Woakes, and this time the ball's been driven into the mid-wicket region by Oshada Fernando. It's a very quick outfield. There's a fielder in pursuit. It's Tom Curran. He gets the ball back, and the batsmen make it back for a comfortable 3, which takes Sri Lanka to 50. 50 for 4 off 10.5 overs. So the run rate's pretty decent. It's just the other column that's the problem for them right now.
Yeah, Perera came out of the blocks all right with a couple of boundaries. Yeah. They had that first little flourish, and then it's been tough going.
Yeah, Perera and then Avishka Fernando both look quite good with the bat, and just a little bit unlucky, I guess, but they got very good deliveries, didn't they? And England have used their reviews very well as well this morning, putting Sri Lanka under a lot of pressure. 50 for 4, as in comes Woakes now to Hasaranga, who just squared up a tiny bit by the ball moving away, pushes the ball to point for no run. And that is the end of the 11th over. Sri Lanka 50 for 4 after 11. Hasaranga on 2 off 7, and Oshada Fernando on 8 off 9. As the darker clouds, I'm pleased to say, are just moving away from the Bristol County ground here a little bit. A little bit of separation, a little bit more sunshine, clear skies. They hope we get a full game in so the 8,000 strong here in Bristol can enjoy themselves. Andy Zaltzman.
Just a little power play update. England's 3 bowling power plays in this series: 47 for 3, 47 for 4 and 45 for 4. So 11 wickets at an average of 12 runs per wicket in terms of average by the bowling team in a power play for England in a one-day series. It's the third best, beaten by a couple of series where they didn't take that many wickets but were more economical. In terms of wickets per innings in the power play, this is the most effective series England have had in one-day cricket where ball-by-ball data is available. That goes back about 20 years. And you mentioned Sri Lanka's players struggling to put a run of form together. I think the problem is they have put runs of form together, just the form has been awful.
Well, you do feel for them a little bit. It's going to be a very difficult post-mortem for them after this series is is done. Mind you, it's still got more than half a game to play here, and you never know. We've seen some strange things happen in Bristol.
It was a good old recovery for De Silva. Maybe it's Oshada Fernando today, who knows?
Maybe Hasaranga. First bowling change about to happen for England as well. Sam Curran's going to be introduced into the attack. Of course, taking a fifer at the Oval, rewarded for that by being demoted and not being given the new ball today in Bristol. In comes Curran, full ball, driven beautifully by Oshada Fernando, but only as far as mid-off, and there is no run. I mean, is that sort of understandable? I mean, I don't know. Talk me through that a little bit, Ebbs. The idea of a bowler taking a fifer and then being told, you know what, you did really well with the new ball at the Oval. Come on, first change in Bristol.
Yeah, I can imagine that conversation wouldn't have gone down too well, but you also know your place sometimes in the side, right?
Sam Curran's a bit of a superstar now. As in he comes. He bowls a full ball. It just takes a thick outside edge. It's a diving stop, a backward point, and there is no run.
What I think's been clear, though, is even if you look at, say, Durham, different surface, he was banging in the short balls, which were effective. Oval, it was swinging early, so he got it up there, and then when it didn't later on, because it completely flattened out, he adjusted his length again and was effective. Him and Willey both got wickets banging it in, and it's incredible because he's not the tallest of bowlers, he's not the quickest, but he's just so on the money.
So consistent as Sam Curran, as in he is once again, this time forward in defence is Oshada Fernando, pushed to extra cover for no run.
And I just sense that he, even though he would want to open, I also sense he will relish, right, I'm in the middle, right, what am I going to do? And I think part of that actually is growing up on the Oval, because it doesn't offer a huge amount. It offers pace for a bowler, but you have to master your skills and your plans, because it's that sort of wicket that's batting friendly. So he's mostly grown up in an environment where he always has to hustle hard.
And comes Curran once more, this time driven over to extra cover once again. Just the three of them playing right now. A dot ball, 50 for 4 still.
Yeah, so I just sense he relishes it. So he mostly would think, right, middle of the innings, change my game plan, take more wickets. That's just how he is, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I think it's a different kind of challenge as well. I'm sure there's a lot of thinking that goes behind all of these changes, and Eoin Morgan and the leadership council will talk about how they want to motivate certain players, and I'm sure a player like Sam Curran, you want to keep him motivated, keep him working hard. As in he comes again, and once more Oshada Fernando on the front foot in defence, no runs scored. I will be curious to see how he gets on against some of these Pakistani players as of next week, who will be a lot stronger. We expect them to be stronger than Sri Lanka, and they're in a good run of form as well at the moment.
Have you looked at the squad yet? I haven't looked at the squad. Are they looking good?
It looks like it's a very intriguing squad. Obviously, Pakistan have visited England for the last 4 years, every year for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
So, we'll be familiar with a lot of the people that are there, but there's also some new and exciting talent as well. As Curran in once again full ball, driven again and to mid-off, and he really wanted to get a run that time. Oshada Fernando was halfway down the wicket, but it wasn't really there. Slightly frustrated, I think, by the fact that he couldn't beat the fielder that over. Sam Curran starts with a maiden, 50 for 4. The score remains after 12 overs. And yeah, I mean, that Pakistan team is very exciting. I mean, there's so many players that we can look, players that we're familiar with, like Shaheen Afridi,
who had the big name Babar
Azam, of course, ranked as 1 or 2 depending on which ranking you follow in World T20 cricket. Recently scored a really belligerent century against South Africa, I beg your pardon, in South Africa, and had a good series against Zimbabwe as well. But the one constant in Pakistani cricket is the unpredictability. So even though you'll see players of great quality, you're not always certain how well the performance is going to go. So historically, they've always been quite exciting to watch in England as well. So that'll be something.
Shadab Khan's in.
Shadab Khan is in the squad, still vice captain. He's had a good little season. My player to watch, though, just to keep an eye on, right, is a player called Azam Khan. Who's a wicketkeeper, best known for being the son of Pakistani wicketkeeping legend Moeen Khan.
Oh yeah.
And they're looking to him to fill that 5-6 spot in the T20 side. Tom Curran into the attack now. The brothers Curran in tandem, as Tom starts with a full ball, just pushed again to mid-off, and there is no run. It must be so wonderful for their parents to watch both brothers bowling in tandem for England. That can't have happened very often, Andy Zaltzman.
No, very, very rarely. Sadly, their father, Kevin, who played for a lot of county cricket and internationally for Zimbabwe, passed away a few years ago. But yeah, it's one of the most successful cricketing families of all time, you could say.
Father, the two sons. Absolutely. As in comes Tom Curran again. This time a little bit shorter, played uppishly through the covers. Out to the man sweeping for a single. I remember speaking to Tom Curran just ahead of the IPL a couple of seasons ago, and he reflected on his family watching and him and Sam playing for different teams. And I said to him, well, you know, which IPL franchise do your family back when you're playing?
Yeah.
Because you're both playing. And he's like, yeah, they kind of keep that one close to the chest, to be honest with you. Which is understandable. Now then, Tom Curran in once again to Oshada Fernando. He bowls a full ball, just straying onto the pads a little bit, but can't quite time it, can Oshada. He still gets it past the fielder at mid-wicket for a single. Score moves on to 52 for 4 now. Cricketing families are interesting. I mean, like brothers who've played together. My mind immediately goes to the Akmals, because there's 3 of them who played together, and of course Babar Azam is their cousin as well. So
there's another Ben Curran plays county cricket as well. So.
Is there a chance the 3 of them could play for England together?
I'm not a selector.
Well, what a good one you'd make, Andy. In comes Tom Curran. That ball's been worked into the leg side, and Hasaranga will take a single, just rotating a little bit. It's quite fruitful for Sri Lanka. This is quite you feel is the appropriate thing for Sri Lanka, just to rotate the strike right now. 53 for 4.
I was just going to say, Surrey's as a county's had a lot of brothers, isn't they? From the Bedford twins through to the Hollyoake brothers, the Curran brothers. I'm sure there's quite a few in history that go back through that county.
As Tom Curran continues with his 5th delivery to Oshada Fernando. Full ball, attempted drive, and the ball just teasing that outside edge.
He didn't even see the line of that. He played down middle, straight back, and the ball was a stump and a half, and it didn't swing. He just didn't pick up the line at all, and had a good old waft there.
It is a cricketing family for you from the early days of cricket. The Hearns. There was a test in South Africa in the 1890s, one of the early test matches played in that country.
I can't wait to hear more about this. As in comes Tom Curran for his final delivery. This time the ball takes a thick outside edge. It's raced away fine to deep third, and they take a single. That is the end of the 13th over. Sri Lanka 54 for 4. After Andy Zaltzman tells you about the Hearn family, you guys are going to be joined by Simon Mann.
Well, let's delve way back into history here. In the 19th century, in fact, a game that only was retrospectively given test status sometime after it happened. So they didn't know they were playing in the same test, but there were 2 brothers and a cousin playing for England from the Hearn family. George and Alec were brothers and cousin John Thomas Hearn, and older brother Frank Hearn was playing for South Africa in the same game, having previously played for England. The 19th century was a bit more fluid in terms of player selection for different teams. And we mentioned how well England's opening bowlers have bowled in this series. It's a slight anomaly in England's bowling stats this series. Simon?
Thank you. Off to the shipping forecast in just a moment, but here is Oshada Fernando turning Sam Curran's ball towards square leg for a single. So commentary will continue on 5 Live Sports Extra, digital radio, online and via the BBC Sounds, but Radio 4 long-wave listeners are off briefly for the shipping forecast. 55 for 4, start of the 14th over.
In the first 2 games of this series, England's bowlers numbers 3, 4 and 5 have yet to take a wicket. It's the first time in England's ODI history they've gone successive games without a wicket from bowler number 3 or 4 or 5.
Is that going to change today? We're going to find out. Here's Curran bowling. Oh, it's skewed away, very nearly there. Goes through backward point, down into the deep third area, where it's picked up by Adil Rashid, who was under a steepler earlier from Dhananjaya to Silva. And he held on to it comfortably down at fine leg. Dhananjaya said we played so well the other day at the Oval. But bounced out by Chris Woakes. So 56 for 4. Sri Lanka's a familiar pattern, familiar tale from this tour. Here is Oshada and Hasaranga trying to do something about it. Oshada Fernando plays that way into the offside. It's cover, but it's picked up by Eoin Morgan, and there is no run. We don't see him very often down here in Bristol for these matches, but Tuffers is here.
Yeah.
Good afternoon to you, Thomas.
Oh, yes, I'm back.
First time since he took 8 for 62 against Gloucestershire in 1995 or something, whatever it was.
Afternoon, Simon. Afternoon, everyone. Zolt's afternoon.
Fernando waits, or comes down the pitch and top edges it down towards fine leg, and this is going for 6. Well, that was a remarkable piece of cricket because he gave Curran the charge. Curran responded by digging it in, and he flailed at the ball and top edged it over the fine leg boundary. And we've talked earlier about the straight boundaries here at Bristol not being quite as long as they used to be when Vic and Tuffers played on this ground.
Yeah.
And that just illustrates it because it flew over the rope at fine leg. It's not a huge boundary straight here at Bristol.
A bit of fortune. Went in it hard, I suppose, but it went fine.
Here's Sam Curran bowling, and he's up on his toes there, guiding that way into the offside. Oshada Fernando, he's on 17, it's 62 for 4 in the 14.
It's funny listening to those stats from Andy there about the bowling. I think that these white balls have swung a lot more than they used to, if my eyes aren't deceiving me, and also for a bit longer as well, because before it was like sort of two overs, wasn't it?
Sometimes 2 balls.
Well, it was almost 2 balls. Yes, perhaps I was being a bit generous with 2 overs, but it was like, very quickly. But these still just keep swinging, and we're into sort of.
Here's Fernando facing Curran, and Oshada Fernando drives out towards deep extra cover. I think it was second Tom Curran's onto it in the deep there. Sends a return to the non-striker's end. They settle for 1.
They're tricky left-handers, isn't they? Left-armers.
I think they've got a few of them in this squad.
Yeah, I thought I might be seeing Garton, yes.
63 for 4. Eoin Morgan was quite emphatic about that at the toss. It was a bit like, you have to really work hard to get into this England side. Why should someone give up? It was a little bit of that. Why should someone give up their place? But he said it in that very gentle way of his.
Yeah.
But that was the sort of sentiment behind it. Welcome back to our Radio 4 long wave listeners. 63 for 4. You have missed something, actually. It was a remarkable stroke in this over. It's just finished from Oshada Fernando, where he charged Sam Curran. Curran dropped it in short, and he still went for the pull shot and top edged it for 6. It's an extravagant piece of cricket, exciting, unorthodox. Right, here's Tom Curran. So the Currans are bowling together at the moment. 63 for 4, and it's Oshada Fernando who's on strike, and he comes down the pitch to him and hits it straight to mid-off, and Woakes takes the catch. Well, he gave him the charge like he gave his brother the charge in the previous over, but in the end it was a very tame dismissal. He was trying to hit it over the top, but it went gently looping out to Woakes at mid-off, and it's 63 for 5.
Yeah, a couple of little paces down the track to Curran and just plinked it, almost clothed it off the toe of the bat and just lollipopped straight to Woakes at mid-off. Just had to have a little jump and took it very comfortably. Didn't get any sort of middle on it. At least they're having a bit of a dart. They're trying to sort of hit their way out of it, but it might cost them, Sri Lanka. And it just seems to be repeating itself, isn't it? I think they've got a decent bowling unit and they've got something to work with there, but they just seem to be making the same mistakes every time I turn the telly on or turn the radio on. It's just 40 for 4 all the time, and then trouble. Well, and against this attack of England, and you're saying no, people have got to, Eoin Morgan was saying no, people have got to earn their caps and everything until the rotational sort of policy kicks in, perhaps, and he wants to give someone a rest.
Well, but I suppose they're all fit, aren't they? They're all fit. They're all. It's hard to sort of justify dropping someone.
I don't mind that though. I don't mind that. You don't. Yeah, I don't like people just to be thrown in for the. Let's have a look at you. Well, let's have a look at you in a Lions game, or let's have a look at you in your test. That's what county cricket's for, isn't it? You don't have a look at someone for an England cap. No, I don't think so.
Well, they've looked at Garton, I suppose. They've seen him around the squad, so got used to him. What he's like as a cricketer and a personality, I suppose.
Having said that, though, as you said, the two left armers will be very good. Why not have another one?
Well, 63 for 5. The players having drinks. Russell Arnold is with us from a distance as well. Well, Russell, it's been the same old story.
It certainly has. It's been disappointing for the sense that you're losing far too many early wickets, and that's the threat. The conditions are such, especially in England. It's overcast. The covers have been on till a few minutes before the start, and you would have expected the ball to move around a bit, and you have to make sure that you don't lose too many wickets. It's unlike in the past. You can't forget that there are 2 balls from either end, and that makes the bowlers a lot more threatening. And getting through that phase has been the tricky part, but it just keeps getting worse. Now 63 for 5 means half the side back in the pavilion, and it's down to the bowlers to cut the rest of the overs.
Seems to be a slightly different approach from Sri Lanka today. The Oval, the start of the Oval on the other day, they were sort of bowled out a bit, but here we've seen 3 of the 5 wickets. One was a huge white from Kusal Perera, one was a top edge taking on the hook shot from Dhananjaya to Silva, and the latest wicket, Oshada Fernando, dancing down the pitch and trying to hit Tom Curran over the top.
Yeah, I think they're trying to play this brand of fearless cricket and trying to take the bowlers on, which is not as easy. I reckon what Sri Lanka are missing are these single options and maneuvering good balls into gaps. If you can maneuver the good ball into gaps, I think you're feeding or breathing a lot better, and that would mean that you're not taking as many risks as you need to if you're keeping the scoreboard moving and the loose ball comes your way, because the bowlers will adjust their lines and lengths, and that will free you up. So they're missing the basics, really.
Russell, thank you. Plays about to resume. That's Russell Arnold, who played 225 times for Sri Lanka in Tests, One-Dayers and T20s. 63 for 5. Alongside me, Phil Tufnell, who's took 1,000 first-class wickets. Quite a few of them on this ground, you said, Thomas. You enjoyed yourself down here, did you?
I think I did well, I think I did all right against Gloucester. Just as a side, I think, as well. Right. I think I might have got a few Gloucesters out.
Yes, Curran bowling outside the off stump. Oh, there's a swish and a miss from Dasun Shanaka. I mean, that was Dasun Shanaka's first ball. Okay, you could argue, I suppose, it was there to be hit, but
I think I'll tell you something. We were down watching the T20 when they were told to be have been a bit timid, weren't they? And I think they might have sort of like that might have just filtered through the dressing room, and I think that they might have sort of thought to themselves, well, we're not going to be timid here, but they've definitely got to get through the new balls, or get that lacquer off these new balls.
Curran goes into bowl to Shanaka. Shanaka opens the face, runs it down to deep third in front of the flats down there, and they go through for a single. 64 for 5. We're in the 14th over, the 15th over, 14.3. So Dasun Shanaka, who is a useful lower order player, he's perfectly capable of making a score here in at number 7.
Yeah, like the first 15 or 20 overs, you're never going to win a game of 50 over cricket, but you can certainly lose it, and that's what they're sort of doing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's what it feels like at the moment. Tom Curran bowls to Hasaranga. Hasaranga covers up and plays defensively into the offside. Now it's sunny in Bristol at the moment, or sunny at the county ground in Bristol, but I've just seen something on my monitor which suggests there's a very angry black cloud behind us, away to the right hand side.
Very angry.
It's going to be coming to tell you off in a minute.
Yes. No, it does look a bit of a whopper, isn't it? Right, and it looks.
Sometimes they look worse on the monitor, on the TV monitor.
Yeah, it's just slightly miffed sometimes, but this one's angry.
Tom Curran bowls, played away quietly into the onside for a single by Hasaranga towards mid-wicket. Moeen steps across to pick up, and there is no run. Hasaranga 6, Shanaka 1. So that's a wicket for Tom Curran.
Yes, a welcome wicket for Tom Curran, whose recent form has been sub-optimal, kept a reasonable economy, right below a run a ball, which in middle and late overs is not too bad in one international cricket, but his previous 11 innings, just 3 wickets for 490 in 87 overs.
Yeah, he could do with a good spell here.
So very grateful to see Oshada Fernando sashay down the pitch and hit it to mid-off. Curran bowls, played defensively by Shanaka into the offside, and there is no run. 65 for 5 Sri Lanka in this final Royal London One Day International. 15 overs gone. Where can they go from here? It does look a good pitch. There's a bit of pace and bounce. They sometimes find a bit of pace and bounce in the international pitch here in Bristol.
I'd be saying to my openers now, bat some time, keep us in the game. We know the ball's going to swing. English conditions, it's going to be nipping around. As you say, 2 new balls at each end. Just don't for those 10 overs. Even if we get 20, 22, let's be none down.
Yeah.
Because that, you know, if you're sitting there in the dressing room and you're just sort of looking up there, you just say 65 for 5 again, you know, heads go down.
Willey bowls, up on his toes goes Hasaranga, forces that square of the wicket on the offside for a single, nice looking shot, and 66 for 5.
And you feel that you're sort of out of the contest, but, you know, if you're sitting there at 66 for 1 or 2, even though sort of the rate might...
Or even 45 for 1.
Well, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You're still thinking, right, come on, lads, we can kick on here a bit now, and everyone sort of gets a bit more up in themselves, but they just, you know, they seem to be making the same mistakes all the time. Listen, England bowled well as well, to be fair.
This is Shanaka. He's taking his first ball from Sam Curran, bowling from the Ashley Down end of the ground, and Shanaka nudges it off his hip, back with a square for a single. Sam Billings comes in. 67 for 5. Although it's half capacity today, the county ground, there's enough people here to give it an atmosphere, and it looks bigger than half full.
The old flats behind us.
Yeah, there are a lot of people watching from the flats.
Yeah, I wonder if you don't like cricket, do you buy one of those?
Well, you probably don't.
No, you probably don't. Yeah.
No. If you love your cricket, it's a great place to have a flat, isn't it?
Wonderful.
Yes. Someone moving in front of the sight screen at the far end just wanders across.
I mean, you could not get a better view.
Sam Curran goes in, bowls, and that's skewed down through.
Yeah.
Fourth slip down to Rashid, who's on the boundary.
Might be tempted,
one more run.
Might be tempted just to have Jason Roy a little bit finer there, going across him. No feet movement and just throwing his hands at it, and it's sliding off the face, and he has gone a bit square. God, I tell you something, I should have been. Even though perhaps that's sort of like after the horse has bolted, because two have gone through there now, squirreling their way through there.
Yeah, rather than backward point, he's gone to sort of deepish gully now.
Yeah.
Although now he's taken a few more steps to his right hand side, so perhaps he's where he was.
Yeah, I like that posse.
68 for 5. 16th over. Sam Curran goes past the outside edge of Shanaka's bat, pushing forward there. And, taken by Bairstow. Did you ever captain a team?
No.
Never?
Oh, no. Oh, I did.
Schoolboy level?
Yeah, schoolboy level. You know, had the field placings in my pocket on a sheet of paper and everything. 3 little lines drawn in the middle, you know. Told them all where to go.
What sort of captain were you?
Fair. Harsh but fair.
Sam Curran. He goes past the outside edge again of Hasaranga's bat. Hasaranga leaning forward. Carbon copy of the previous delivery.
Yes, knew when to put the arm around the shoulder and give him a bit of a rollicking sometimes.
So what age last time you captained, what age were you?
7. No, I don't know, about
15.
Yeah, 14. Yeah.
Sam Curran bowls. Shanaka plays defensively into the offside, and there's no run. I keep seeing that cloud on its way on my screen. Whether it's perhaps it's, I mean, there is one away to our left, and I think that one's gone. So what's behind us? We can't see because it's behind the pavilion here.
That might just be slipping round.
It might be.
Yeah, because there is a breeze. Look at them flags going.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they are the shorter flags, which look like they're really fluttering when there's not much breeze, but that might just push it away.
Yeah. 68 for 5. Storm coming in on Monday evening.
Storm
in the southwest. Yeah. So that I think it looks
Wednesday.
No, Monday evening.
What have we got Monday?
Nothing.
Oh right. Oh, well, that's all right.
Well, some championship cricket around and about.
Oh right. Okay.
So that's first day of the Cheltenham Festival tomorrow, which is a big money spinner normally for Gloucestershire County Cricket Club, and a big game for them against Middlesex as well.
Yes, used to love it down there. That's where I used to get.
It's a lovely venue, isn't it, Cheltenham?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Tom Curran bowls. Forward goes Hasaranga, playing that towards mid-off, and there's no run.
Edwardian? Georgian. Edwardian. All the styles of the houses.
Around Cheltenham?
Yes, all those big sash windows, floor-to-ceiling sash windows.
Yeah.
Lovely. Very nice.
Cricket's normally good there as well. So it's been a high-scoring ground, but your bowlers in it as well, but pace and bounce.
There was a very famous wine bar that always had a tent at third man at one of the ends. I always used to nip down there.
What, while you were fielding?
While we were fielding.
Slight delay. A bird had gone onto right by the stumps. wanted a close view of.
Seagull?
I don't know. Is it? Yeah. Pigeon, I think.
Oh, that's not. Is it a pigeon? It looks like a squirrel.
Well, I think he's been. The pigeon's been sent on its way. There's another one now, mid-off. If he hits a crisp off drive, he's in real danger.
Yeah, he is.
Here is Tom Curran bowling to Hasaranga. Hasaranga gets a ball on his pads as he plays through square leg. Michael Goff steps out of the way. Ball goes to Willey on the deep square leg boundary. So one more to the total. 69 for 5.
I've got your binoculars.
17th over.
I haven't been down to Bristol for a long time, but I think I know what a pigeon looks like.
Live bird spotting here on TMS.
Yeah.
Is it a pigeon? It's quite small for a pigeon.
It's a tiny pigeon.
It is
a pigeon.
Yeah.
It's tiny.
Yeah. It's pecking away at the crease that I think was used for the women's test match.
Bit of grass seed, probably.
Yeah.
Oh, it is tiny, look.
It's right at mid-off, or on the way to mid-off. Curran bowls to Shanaka outside the off stump. It's a slip in now. Shanaka leans forward and lets that one go.
It's one of the last things to go from an ex-cricketer, isn't it? The ability to spot a pigeon and lose it.
Oh, I know. Jack Russell always used to say, if he was running, he always, when he was sort of looking for two, he used to say, "No, can't see, wait, pigeons." Because all the pigeons would fly off. "Are you coming for two? I can't see, it's the pigeon." He used to shout at his batting mate.
69 for 5. 17th over. Tom Curran goes in. Bowls to Shanaka. Shanaka plays that to square leg. Willey's up now. He was back for Hasaranga, but he's up at square leg. And there's no run. So England trying to squeeze Sri Lanka here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 inside the circle. Don't need to have that many, but they have. Just trying to keep the pressure on Sri Lanka, not give them easy runs.
Still gone for the hairband. Oh, Tom Curran, hasn't he?
Black hairband on.
Yeah.
Sets off by a pile of sawdust just inside the circle, down beneath us, watching on from the pavilion. Bowls straight ball, which is turned away through mid-wicket. Moeen Ali's after it. They'll come back for 2 here. A relay fielding, flicks it back to Willey, who lobs it into Bairstow. 2 more, therefore. 71 for 5.
Does look a pitch as if he'd get in. It comes onto the bat nicely, doesn't it? Without, and there's been some nice back foot, very just little punches, haven't they, and little clips that have pinged off.
There's one early on that through the offside. Beautiful stroke from Ashika Fernando.
Yeah, that's it.
Hit the ball on the top of the bounce through the offside off the back foot. Shanaka 4 on strike at 71 for 5. Tom Curran bowls and he drives that up towards straight mid-on. Diving save from Moeen Ali away to his left-hand side. Prevents a single, and that is the end of the over. Curran's bowled 3 overs, taken 1 for 9. It's 71 for 5 Sri Lanka put into bat. We've had 17 overs. Hasaranga 9, Shanaka 4. It's staying dry. There are some dark clouds around, but on we go. Time for Charles Dagnall.
Yeah, that is quite a threatening cloud just on the left-hand side. It might be going down the channel there or something, or the port or the sea to the left-hand side, but it is sort of moving round us. Let's hope it keeps going. There is a bit of wind up, it's pushing it along, so hopefully it doesn't come over here. There goes.
Hello, Philip.
Hello, mate.
Lovely to see you in the West Country.
I know.
Lovely to see you anywhere.
No, of course.
But we are in the West Country.
We are.
Good afternoon, everybody. Again, it's 71 for 5. England on top. Here's Sam Curran from the Ashley Down Road end. Gets clattered away through the mid-wicket region for 4. Beautiful shot from Hasaranga. Didn't really get up. It sat up beautifully. And he swats it away through the onside for 4 runs, and that'll please him and Sri Lanka. 75 for 5.
Yeah, that one just stuck in the pitch, didn't it? The odd one's been skipping through and been a couple of sort of top edge sixes and also a wicket on the hook shot, but that one just sort of stayed in the pitch all the time in the world, and as you say, clattered it through mid-wicket.
The response from Curran is coming, and it's short and wide, cut away, almost sounded a bit tinny, perhaps off the toe end of the bat. It goes out to Brother Tom on the point boundary, 76
He's looking
for
at
5.
it now, Chuckles. He's looking at it now.
Ah, yes.
Yes. You've got a very good ear.
Thank you.
Very good.
I've got 2 of them.
Got a very good ear for a clinking sound off the bottom of the bat.
Yes.
He's been there one shining light, hasn't he, Hasaranga?
I'd give you another.
Oh, go on.
Chameera.
Oh, the quick bowler. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, pacey.
Curran towards us. Bowls, he's beaten outside the off stump. Shanaka just feeling for it. It just carried on across the bows of the right-hander and through to Jonny Bairstow. He remains at 76 for 5.
He's bowled a lot of those, hasn't he? He's bowled them nicely. It almost just looks to shape in and then just moves away from the right-hander.
Well, it's a different situation, of course, than the one he had at the Oval, where he took the new ball, he got it swinging,
Hooping
a lot. So a slightly different context for Sam Curran, but he's almost one of these plug-and-play cricketers, depending on the situation. Here he is again, bowling on middle and leg, and Shanaka neatly turns it, wristily to square leg. Billings trots in from the boundary edge and underarms it back to Chris Woakes, and a single is taken, 77 for 5.
He's obviously a very, very quick learner.
Yes.
Because every time I see him, he seems to get better and better and better, and I think that's IPL and all this franchise
Agreed.
stuff and learning from people and different situations when you've got to come into bowl. It just looks like he's upped his game management, if you know what I mean.
Bowls onto the back foot goes Hasaranga, and forces it away through the offside Morgan Field.
Course management.
Very much so.
I've still got your putter.
Have you? I've still got your bag cover. How we ended up with both, I'm not quite sure.
Well, you were
Keep hold of it.
Yes, you were threatening to break it in half last time we had a little whack round.
Oh, yes, we did.
Yeah.
Yes. I wasn't in the best of moods. As Curran, with that blue sleeve on his left arm, bowls one that just cuts away, and Hasaranga deals with it nicely, turning it to Chris Woakes at mid-on, and they pick up another single. Do Sri Lanka 78 for 5. The conclusion of the 18th over. Hasaranga is 15 not out. Shanaka is 5 not out here on Test Match Special. 5 Live Sports Extra, Radio 4 long wave, and via the BBC Sounds app as well. And don't forget, you can watch the wickets to fall. I've got a screen in front of me, and Adam has put a message on there, and it's half of the message. So at the moment it says you can watch the wickets fallen and all of today's other hig of the cricket section of the BBC. I'm going to make it up. The cricket section of the BBC Sport website. All of the highlights of today's action. There's county games going on across the country as well, which you can hear via the cricket section of the BBC Sport website as well. Lots of cricket across the BBC. Tom Curran is bowling from the pavilion end and bowls on a good length. Outside of the off stump, Hasaranga drives, doesn't quite time it, and goes to Moeen Elliott mid-on. So you're on good form, then? Did you have a good night last night?
Yes. Oh, well, it was a very stress-free a night, really, for me. It wasn't it? It's not like the usual stuff.
Nail-biting.
Edge of your seat stuff, watching the boys.
I had an interesting trip down from Worcester.
Did you?
Yeah. Curran again, pumping his arms, running away from us, full of length, and better timing from Hasaranga this time, but it ends up at Moeen again. So I was covering the England women yesterday. Good game against India.
Yes, knocked it off, didn't they?
They did. The last over, yeah. Really tense game. But it finished because of a rain delay and them winning in the final over. It finished around about 7:30. Had to get down to Bristol.
How long was that?
About an hour.
Okay. Police outriders.
Roads were empty, as you would expect. Curran bowls short of a length, squeezed away through the offside by Hasaranga for a single to deep point, 79 for 5. So we thought, well, we're going to miss the first bit. We'll get there for the second half. Myself and Daniel Norcross in the car. We'll get there. We'll turn the radio on.
Lovely.
Ian Dennis, 5 Live. Me and Dan are just talking, and we hear this roar in the background. So we turn it up, and they've scored.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Because we wanted to see it. And we'll get there at half-time. Part of me, and this is very unpatriotic of me.
Yeah.
Because I missed the last game as well.
Yeah.
It's Curran. 59 on his back, goes wide of the crease this time, short and wide cut, but only to Jason Roy at point. Part of me wanted Ukraine to get one back.
No,
I know, that's terrible.
God.
It's terrible of me. Because I just wanted a bit of excitement. I've not watched a game.
Security.
Of course I wanted England to win.
Can you remove this man, please?
I wanted to see an exciting game. And then when we got to the hotel, and it was, hi everybody, oh, they've scored again.
No, it's very good, very
fantastic
exciting.
Though.
Yeah, it is.
Brilliant as Curran bowls a slower delivery out of the side of the hand. It sort of loops to Shanaka, defends resolutely outside of the off stump. Shanaka, who we saw score a very enterprising half-century in the first T20 international and 47 in the second one-day international, so he can play.
He can play. Good bowler as well, bowls nicely as well, sort of low, round arm, skiddy leggies. When's the semis? Tuesday?
Oh, I've just broken my mask.
Oh, no.
Here's Curran. Short delivery pulled away by Shanaka out towards deep backward square. Long chase for Adil Rashid, who tumbles and then tries a little pass to David Willey. Isn't successful, and Sri Lanka go through for a second run. So a quiet period for Sri Lanka at the moment. 81 for 5, 19 overs gone. Hasaranga is 16, Shanaka is 7.
At least they haven't lost any wickets. Sri Lanka need to perhaps have a quieter period at the beginning of their innings, because they've almost played themselves out of it before they got into it. When's the semis? Sorry.
I think Tuesday and Wednesday. So
I think England are on Wednesday.
Oh, are we? Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Look forward to that.
Yeah. Good luck, everyone.
Good crowd here. 8,000. One of these pilot games again. More crowd coming in. There's a lovely hum around the ground at Bristol. Open stand to our left-hand side. Our temporary stand, albeit. Flags are fluttering at the top of it, just indicating where the food stalls are, first aid and the like. Blanket of grey above us, but there's pockets of blue, which is hugely encouraging. People on the flats on the far side of the ground just peering over their balconies as Curran sets off again, starting a new over, and he's left alone outside of the off stump. Through it goes to Jonny Bairstow, 80 miles an hour from Sam Curran, and it remains 81 for 5. Philip is leaving us for the moment. Yeah, just having a look round the ground. It feels full, even though it's not. It does feel full. Lots of people in shirt sleeves. It is a warm day, even though there's the threat of rain. It is warm out there as Curran comes in once more. This is sprayed wide outside the off stump. Just got it a little wrong, and the outstretched arms of Michael Gough signal another run onto Sri Lanka's total. 82 for 5. As if to rub salt into the wound, the LED advertising hoardings signal wide as well around the ground. A gully. Backward point, extra cover, mid-off, mid-on. There the fielders inside the ring. Deep cover, deep square, third man fine leg. Fairly orthodox field for Curran, scuttling in and slightly shorter delivery. Attempted pull by Hasaranga. He doesn't quite get it right. Saw it early, but maybe a little bit of away movement off the surface, and the ball ends up at mid-on, and Victor is back.
Well, I think I said to Simon at the start, in my ideal world, Sri Lanka could get 337.
Why is that?
Well, because it'd make for a really good test for the England team.
Oh, okay. That's a very specific number.
Well,
As Curran bowls, defended by Hasaranga, and Curran fields off his own bowling in his follow-through.
but I don't think it's going to happen.
It's a good prediction, that, Vic.
Wasn't
An
it?
82 for 5. They'd have to go some, wouldn't they? No, it's. I can see that there's actually quite a few supporters, and
I think most of the supporters quite like England to have batted first.
yeah,
but I mean, you can't really
there are
captain a side on those grounds. So
and there are World Cup points available for this game as Curran bowls short of a length, turned easily by Hasaranga to deep mid-wicket. Single is taken, 83 for 5. I understand the frustration of it. You'd like to see, for argument's sake, people suggesting there's a good opportunity to see Garton or Banton or even bat first to test them out, but I see why Eoin Morgan wouldn't.
I mean, I think there would have been one argument for batting first, not so much to do with the conditions and everything like that. It is that if you are trying to glean more information and gain more experience, England like batting second. They always bat second, it seems, in most circumstances, although they changed tack during the World Cup.
Full from Curran, whipped away by Shanaka for a single, 84 for 5.
So you could have batted first this morning on the basis that we want to test our batsmen, give maybe, as a consequence, batting 50 overs, hopefully, people who haven't had much of a chance to show what they can do. an attempt, but also to get used to that fact that someday Morgan will not win the toss, and his team will have to bat first, the way they say they don't prefer to do it. So it'd be a good experience to do that. That might have been one argument.
Curran, short of the length, once more on the hip of Hasaranga, who turns it slightly. Got a little leap in whilst he played that. Billings scurries in from the deep mid-wicket boundary, and it's another single onto the total. 85 for 5, 20 overs gone. 30 remain. Hasaranga is 18 and Shanaka is 8. I think that the idea international captains have now is the nature of the surface. It gives them 50 overs. Even in T20, it gives them 20 overs to see how it's playing, to see what works and what doesn't with the ball.
Yeah.
And that'll give them a better indication of how to bat on it.
That's true. But what happened in the World Cup? Everyone liked to insert at the start.
Yeah.
By the end of that tournament, everyone was batting first. And it was partly to do with the conditions, but also when the game is a one-off that really matters, then you see the benefit of getting runs on the board. There isn't that same tension when you are batting first as batting second in a one-off match, which is a knockout match. And it was intriguing to watch how all the captains changed tack about halfway through the 2019 World Cup. Win toss, we'll bat, thank you very much. Even Eoin Morgan.
Curran will start a new over. He's got a fourth slip in place, and he bowls on around middle stump, and it's defended by Hasaranga. Curran fields off his own bowling. I wonder, that's a really good point. When the stakes are that much higher and it is a one-off, how, the old
you
adage
can't
of
chase
getting them
with
on
the
the
same
ball.
freedom.
No.
If you've got a series of a best of 5, let's say, you'll back your batsmen to play freely, to give them their absolute liberation to go for it, and you'll reckon we'll win at least 3 out of 5.
Yeah.
We'll win the series.
Curran, light blue wristband on his left arm. This gets driven by Hasaranga. Looked to play it through the offside, but he's little early on it. Goes through the leg side this time. David Willey does the chasing round from deep square over to deep mid-wicket, and Sri Lanka pick up 2. Hasaranga to 20, and Sri Lanka 87 for 5.
And that's the sort of beauty of the knockout format. We're probably witnessing it in the football a bit by now.
Yeah.
When it's a one-off, the old sweaty palms come in, whether you're watching or playing, probably.
It'll be again interesting to see how the subsequent World Cup will play out. As Curran bowls on around a fourth stump line. Forward comes Hasaranga, dead bats it to Eoin Morgan, who no doubt is a very content captain.
Well, we've got the World T20s, the one on the horizon.
Yep.
I mean, I've been to a few, and one of the most amazing ones was the final that the West Indies won against Sri Lanka, where after 10 overs, the West Indies were 38 for 2.
It's incredible.
And they got to 150 and won, batting first, because, again, there was a special tension for Sri Lanka batting second.
Curran again, close to the stumps this time. Now has been swatted away. This David Willey is under it, a deep square, and takes a catch. Short delivery, a good one from Tom Curran. He got the height that was required, where Hasaranga was just not in control of the shot, and so it played out as a top edge went out to David Willey. The 6th Sri Lankan wicket falls. Hasaranga goes for 20, and Sri Lanka in the mire again, 87 for 6.
Yeah, well, it seems at the moment, at the end of this tour for Sri Lanka, that as far as their opposition is concerned, they just got to wait and someone will get out. And that's the second time we've actually seen the bouncer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an enticing bouncer. It's not the quickest bouncer in the world, but he got it around about head high, almost above head high. They're very hard to keep down. And you have to middle them to clear the boundary. It was a top edge, and there was an ocean of time for David Willey to wait. Didn't have to move, and he caught it.
What's interesting as well is the line of the bouncer as well. It's probably a foot outside of off stump.
That's right.
And so trying to manoeuvre the ball at that height over towards the leg side is a really difficult. Actually, a lot of players now would actually lean back and uppercut it over the slips. That line of the delivery.
And I think he does have a third man, but you've just got to avoid third man then.
I think it's actually a better, weirdly, a better percentage if you want to score.
From that, it was very high. It was like a tennis shot, really, and a sort of difficult slam. Almost sort of inevitably, the way this game is going, it hasn't surprised us yet, has it?
Nope.
A simple wicket, a cheap wicket again. We've seen a few of those, and it's 87 for 6.
Yeah. Well, Chamika Karunaratne comes to the crease. 19 not out and 21 so far in the 2 innings he's had in these one-day international series. All of this happening, by the way.
Yes.
We've not seen Rashid as yet.
No. And I'm not sure. He might bring back Woakes or someone to try and polish it off quickly. Because actually, I think the pattern in the first 2 games is that Sri Lanka, totally in the mire, have managed to get towards respectability. Well, they've still got some work to do to get there, and he might just say, "Come on, Woakesy, have another go."
I think that's what they did at the Oval. It was a while.
Yeah.
Until we saw some spins. So batsman may have crossed whilst the ball was in the air. I'm not quite sure, but I think it's Chamika on strike.
Yeah.
And Curran comes in. Bowls his first delivery, and that's played forcefully through the offside. Confident looking shot, pressing it through the infield and out towards Sam Billings. So 88 for 6. Hasaranga gone for 20 off 33 balls. A few people emerge from the penthouse balcony, the flats opposite, making their way into their seating on outdoor seating. Lovely place to watch some cricket if you're here in Bristol. Shanaka back on strike. So much to do for the all-rounder as Curran approaches. Slightly shorter delivery and little jab pull down towards deep backward square, where David Willey almost loses his floppy blue hat in the process of fielding the ball, but he grabs it with his right hand and hurls it back towards Jonny Bairstow. So 6 wickets down. Sri Lanka 89 on the board. 21 overs have gone. Karunaratne 1 off 1 just arrived at the crease, and Shanaka is 9 not out of 18. That's the situation. How do they remedy it from here? Vic Marks, some more from you, and Atif Nawaz will take over from me.
Well, they are going to give Chris Woakes a go in an effort to try and finish the innings quickly, I guess. While the ball is still hard, he might as well have another go. Atif, this is a bonus because I think this is my debut alongside you.
Well, it's my debut alongside you. It's my pleasure, Vic. What a pleasure it is. Yeah. Well, this will be fun. We've got Chris Woakes coming back into the attack. Interesting choice. We were just talking about not seeing Adil Rashid, but what do you make of this week?
Well, he's got such an abundance of choices that if he wants to bowl Woakes, he doesn't feel he has to save him. And he probably thinks Woakes, while the ball has still got a tiny bit of hardness, is my best bet to get wickets. I mean, he wants to finish the innings off. He does. How many overs have gone? 21. There's 29 overs left.
Theoretically. As Chris Woakes, with a slip in place, comes into Shanaka. It's quite wide. It's been left alone by Shanaka through to the keeper for no run.
But I'd be tempted to think about Rashid now as well.
Yeah.
The boundaries, they keep going on about the short boundaries here, but it's 89 for 6.
Yes.
It's still, and we know what Rashid can do. He can bamboozle with the old googly now and again. No one picks it. The top order struggle to pick his googly, so the lower order will definitely struggle. He might go for the odd boundary, but he might finish the innings off, so it'll also be more fun.
Yeah, it'll be good to see a bit of Adil about. As in comes Chris Woakes, full ball again, just swinging away from Shanaka through to the keeper for no run.
I keep looking at Moeen, who's at mid-on, and he keeps bowling the ball to the bowler from mid-on. So, oh, please, can I have a bowl?
I mean, you can't really hint harder than that, can
Not
you?
really.
Adil Rashid, he started this series quite well. He bowled 2 very good sessions in Cardiff, 2 for 17 in the first game, 2 for 24 in the second game. But since then, it's been a little bit expensive and crucially wicketless against Sri Lanka. I mean, is there a sense of perhaps the Sri Lankan team being slightly more competent against spin?
I think that might well be true.
As Chris Woakes back in again, slightly shorter, but again swinging away from Shanaka, who's happy to leave it alone through to the keeper for no run.
Yeah, I mean, spin has seldom terrified Sri Lankan batsmen.
Yes.
However, Rashid may have struggled, actually. The figures bear that out in the last couple matches. but over the long term, he's got a fantastic record.
Yes.
And I'm sure, and one of the great things about Morgan is he's given Rashid more confidence than any other captain he's ever played under, I think.
Woakes in once again. This time a little bit straighter again, just moving away from the batsman. Just so close to the outside edge. You feel like you have to be more informed to get anywhere near those.
Yeah, I mean, that's the perfect. It was just a flicker of swing, wasn't there?
Yeah.
And 2 slips are there. He's quite rightly. He's looking for wicket, so that ball did move.
He's putting a test match line and length at the moment, Chris Woakes, and it's just really working for him as he comes down the hill, from giving the great perspective to the people in those flats. In comes Chris Woakes once again, fuller this time, and again swinging away. A big booming drive attempted that time by Shanaka. He's be very grateful to have missed out on it as it went through to the keeper for no run. Just can't get any bat on it at the moment, Vic.
Well, it is swinging, and that one did. I mean, it was enticing because it was almost half volley, but not quite, and it did swing. So we've got Joe Root at first slip. Moeen, don't often see him there, but he's at second. They need to be on to red alert at the moment, I think, or white alert.
Moeen just wants to be involved already right now, it feels like. In comes Woakes again, this time a bit straighter, defended to mid-on by Shanaka for no run. It's interesting you talk about the way Eoin Morgan looks after Adil Rashid and gives him that confidence. You get the feeling that of all the captains that Rashid has played under, he's most confident under Eoin Morgan. Eoin Morgan seems to have that excellent relationship, that kind of understanding of his personality.
Yeah, exactly. I think, just Rashid trusts him totally. Morgan is one of the great assets of any captain, is he kind of has this capacity to give confidence to certain players. And I think Rashid over the early years, is not naturally full of himself.
Yes.
And then we've watched him over the years, in recent years. We're getting to the sort of 46th over, and Morgan's got to make a choice. I think I'll give it to Adil.
Yes.
And sometimes suddenly he picks up 2 wickets rather than get to it. So just the fact that he's tossed the ball, in those slightly critical moments, Rashid thinks, well, hang on a minute, this man must rate me.
Yes. And he does it rather casually as well.
Yeah.
I think that was a spot-on impression, actually. But David Willey's back into the attack, all pace again for England, as in comes Willey with a fuller delivery, just played into the onside for no run. And he's really got set out his stall here a little bit, Eoin Morgan. He's gone back to the men who've got him wickets over the series, and I think almost giving David Willey his day in court, because when you sort of when you sort of look at this England squad and its absurdity of depth, when you have to start trimming players looking at World T20s and big international competitions, as David Willey comes in once again short this time down the leg side, and it will be given a wide by the umpire. It has indeed a 90 for 6 now. Yeah, when you look at trimming players, I mean, David Willey's got to be there's players who are guaranteed to be on the team sheet. Eoin Morgan, Joss Butler if he's fit, Jofra Archer,
and then there's a couple missing, obviously Stokes and Archer.
Yes.
But and also there is that fact that Willey was the unlucky man 2019.
As in he comes again, this time forward in defence is Karunaratne, no run scored. And
when he was correctly left out of the squad.
Yes.
But he'd played for 2 or 3 years, he'd never let anyone down at all. But it's a good record, but it was the right decision. But
it's
I think Morgan,
when they win the World Cup.
well, it was almost Willey versus Archer, and
it's a tough battle for anyone.
It's not a tough decision in many ways, but I think it stays with Morgan now.
Yes. As in comes Willey once again, fuller this time, driven nicely by Karunaratne, but fielded in the follow through of Willey, and again there is no run.
So he wants to give Willey. He's not in a situation where we'll just rest David because he's bowling well, because he's been rested too often for too long. Yeah. So he's bowling well, he deserves his place, so he's going to keep it rather than a George Garton, let's say.
Yes, well,
fair enough, I think.
Fair enough indeed. In comes Willey, back of a length this time, pushed by Karunaratne to mid off again for no run. Well, 90 for 6 at the moment after 22.4 overs. There's some prediction statistics being thrown at us. 183 is the predicted score.
Really?
I think they'd have to go absurdly well from head to get to 183. I would be very impressed.
You'll have to explain to me, Dick Viz.
There's so many Vizzes about these days.
I know. Well, actually,
I go with Zolt's Viz.
Zoltzmann now.
Zolt's Viz is my favourite. In comes Willey again, full. Driven to mid-off. This time they run through for a quick single. There's a shy that on striker's head. In fact, the ball connects with the stumps. And we're going to have another look at this. My instinct tells me the batsman was just about in, but with a direct hit, you never know. It's always a little bit closer. We could be piling on more misery here.
Yeah.
For Sri Lanka, 90 for 6, and we're going to take another look. It'll be Karunaratne, the man who's in trouble. Oh.
He's in by a couple inches. Yeah, maybe even 4 or 5, but it was worth looking. I think I'd have, as an umpire, you don't want to take any risks with that. There were no major celebrations out there after a semi-excited appeal.
No, it was a smart piece of fielding. I think with Billings at mid-off, he's hit the stumps a few times today. As in comes Willey again, this time teasing that outside edge one more time, and the batsman gets nowhere near it. It goes through to the keeper, and there is no run, and that is the end of the 23rd over. Sri Lanka 91 for 6. Zoltzviz.
Well, I've been looking at CricViz's swing data, and specifically looking at Woakes, Willey and Tom Curran as bowlers who bowled for England over the last few years. We've seen Sri Lanka's batters really struggling in this series. Mentioned some of the least productive batting, let's put that kindly. Let's not use the word incompetent. Let's use least productive batting we've seen by a team in a series in one-day international cricket. But the degree of swing that those 3 bowlers have been getting is about 50% more than they got in the 2019 summer, or so significantly up on the 2020 summer. So just comparing those 3 bowlers with their performance in previous seasons.
So where do you get this information from?
Oh, it's a clever little database.
Well, no, but it's one of the Vizzes.
There's an aircraft hangar with an infinite number of Vizzes churning out an infinite number of stats.
Chris Woakes will continue, and another great length delivery, swings away from the batsman who lets that one go by slightly more competently this time, does Karunaratne. And there is no run.
Well, given how you've told us that there is a phenomenal amount of swing here compared to 2019, that's like Peter Snow, or not Peter Snow.
John Snow, the swingometer. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, let's call it the swing.
Anyway, given that it's so phenomenal,
yes,
how come PredictViz comes up with 183 as the likely total?
Well, there's a lot that goes.
I
into
ask
that,
you.
I think.
It's what?
Woakes in again. Again, the ball just swings away from the bat of Karunaratne, who, frankly, can't get anywhere near it right now. 91 for 6. Andy?
Well, PredictViz, all the CricViz database uses a massive amount of data and information garnered over, the entire recorded history of cricket and all the time we've had
since 2000.
Well, since we have ball tracking data, and then the ball-by-ball stuff goes back a little further. Further than that, so it all factors into that. And
so you think they're right?
Woakes in again. Once again left alone outside the off stump, through to the keeper, no run.
Well, it's not saying what will happen.
It's saying it's the most likely to happen. Though.
Yeah.
But 183.
Yeah, it does seem optimistic. But they factor in also, unlike say the Duckworth-Lewis method, which doesn't factor in the specific players playing, it does take into account the bowlers and batters.
So we've learned 2 things: that they've got a massive amount of data.
Yep.
And they're optimists. Is that it?
I'm loving this explanation. I want you to explain more things to Vic on the radio. In comes Woakes once more. The ball beats the outside edge through to the keeper. No run. Karunaratne just nods. He's accepted that he's going to miss everything outside the off stump now.
But there was a lot of discussion
about... Could statisticians be optimists?
We are ruthless pragmatists, Vic.
This is a community which... As a surprise to nobody.
Talk about the white ball not doing enough for bowlers. And I don't know if they're slightly different, or if it's just we've had games in quite muggy conditions this season. It's only a 3-game sample from this year's cricket, but still the swing has caused havoc.
Chris Woakes is swinging it really well at the moment. This time just squaring up Karunaratne. The ball takes a thickish outside edge, goes into the covers for a single. That's the first time he's adjusted his length, his line a little bit, Chris Woakes, because he's swinging the ball really nicely, but from quite wide outside off. And if he wants to really coax that edge out, has to get a bit straighter.
Well, that's right. He's almost swinging it too much, isn't he? Have you factored that in? An excessive swing. Perhaps that's why it's 183 and not 154. He's swinging it so much.
Is it? Yeah.
I don't know. Actually,
I often find myself wondering what the swing data from the late 19th century would suggest. As a fuller ball, again, swings away from Shanaka, and Woakes practices the shot that would get the edge. 92 for 6. after 24 overs.
Also, a factor, I guess, is that Sri Lanka have, in the previous 2 games, recovered to an extent from terrible starts. And in fact,
so they factored that in.
Well, they would have factored, the current form and performance of their middle and lower order. At the Oval, in fact, after the fall of the 4th wicket, which went down at 21 for 4, so it was a terrible start, but they added 220 runs after that, which was the 4th most Sri Lanka's added after the fall of their 4th wicket in a one-day international. Now, obviously, the top order facilitated that, and, if you're looking for positives for Sri Lanka, A, good luck, and B, they've given their middle and lower order a great chance to have some time at the crease.
Yes.
The way that England's
I just feel like you said the number 4 a lot there, Andy, to be honest with you.
It's all part of a trick.
I'm determined not to...
your wallet as well.
Well, these 2 batsmen had a good outing at the Oval. Shanaka got 47
but then
on 67.
You could, there's an old sort of wives' tale. You can go into wives' tales. Well, if he scored runs last time, probably won't get any this time.
That's how the selectors worked in the 1980s.
It was, I think.
In comes David Willey. This time just fended off into the leg side for no run.
I've got a stat for you.
Oh, right.
No, sorry. We were talking about it before the start. I think it was Simon. Sri Lanka. I played against Sri Lanka, 1988. And this is the stat. I was the 34th man to be picked by England that summer. It's not something I usually boast about, but how about that? 34th.
Outstanding.
That was in the days before everyone played the same thing.
David Willey had once again this time pushed with a bit more conviction by Karunaratne out to the man sweeping in the covers. The score moves on to 93 for 6.
They dropped Chris Broad, Stewart's father and match referee in this game, after he'd scored 6 Test centuries in 18 months, 3 more than any other England player. He had 1 bad game and they dropped him, so maybe they thought, he scored his runs, he's not going to get any more.
Well,
pure science.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Pure science.
I don't think Chris would have nodded in assent to that any more regally than Stewart would have done.
David Willey still has a slip in place. He comes in, the ball taking a thick outside edge, goes out to wide third for a single. Sri Lanka just finding a way to squeeze these extra runs out here. 94 for 6. Well, I don't know. I don't mean to challenge science and statistics, Vic, but
no, you can't do
I don't see 183 happening.
I don't at the moment. Although you can understand why Morgan is not bothering with his spinners at the moment, because he's got so many options, and it is still just moving a little bit, isn't it? Certainly for Woakes, and a little bit for Willey.
In he comes again, Willey. This one's short. It's been pulled into the deep square leg region on the bounce though to Tom Curran, and that's another single taken. A little bit of alarm there for Sri Lanka, but settled quickly. Little uptick in the heart rate. The score moves on to 95 for 6 now. Chamika Karunaratne also had an impressive little innings. 21 of 38 deliveries at the Oval. It was quite crucial in getting Sri Lanka past that 200 mark in that game, as the next one from Willey has just been played to backward point, and there is no run. 95 for 6. And when we talk about Dasun Shanaka, he was the first sort of standout player for Sri Lanka in this series, getting a 50 in that first T20. So he's definitely got some skill with the bat, and he's certainly used to coming in with his team in trouble. Well, I suppose most of the Sri Lankan lower to middle order is like that at this point, but
on this tour certainly,
yeah. David Willey, and once again Fuller, and a big swing from Shanaka, misses out completely. It goes through to the keeper. Another play, another miss. The end of another over. 95 for 6 after 25 overs. England very much in control here at the Bristol County ground. The skies are still very much clear. We're hoping it'll stay that way, especially for the sake of the 8,000 strong that have turned up here at Bristol to enjoy this game. A lot of people on the flats on the far side of the ground as well, enjoying off the balconies. Really is a cricket lover's dream home, really, isn't it?
Well, it's just great.
Unless you can sleep at the media centre at Lord's.
No, it's just great we're lucky. We thought the weather would be worse than this, and it's great to see spectators at live sport. They're not having a classic yet, but things can change.
Well, we're very much looking forward to that full house at Lord's in just under a week's time now. Pakistan match, and Pakistani fans will come out. I've had many requests for tickets already.
Oh dear.
And I keep telling people, look, thank you so much to everybody who's asking. Unfortunately, I've run out of my allocation of 5,000 tickets at Lord's, so I'm so sorry to anybody I couldn't accommodate. But yeah, it'll be a great occasion, won't it? Full house at a cricket match for the first time in in over a year.
Yeah.
It's something to get excited about. Probably the first full house since the 2019 World Cup final. As in comes Chris Woakes. This time the ball has just been flicked down to find leg for a single, and the score moves on to 96 for 6. Yeah, for an international match, certainly. Perhaps some county matches got big crowds in, but this will be the biggest crowd ever at Lord's, actually, considering
the
new
stands.
Yeah.
Well, do we know if it's sold? It's sold out.
It is sold out.
Great.
We're expecting a capacity crowd at Lord's, so that'll be something. It'll keep all of the people checking track and traces and COVID tests and lateral flow tests busy, I'm sure. There's another ball that's been left alone outside the off stump through to the keeper. I feel almost like at this stage these two Sri Lankan batsmen have decided to just get as far away from Chris Woakes as possible.
Well, I think they've identified that. Hang on a minute. I mean, there's a logic here. He's swinging it. He can't bowl many more. We'll make hay
when the sun eventually shines.
Well, against someone else.
In comes Chris Woakes again, full and again swinging away, just trying to tease that drive. As Chris Woakes, Shanaka able to leave it alone.
I mean, it's a real bonus in a one-day game.
Yeah.
If you're after, the second half of the innings, just about now, and Woakes knows that he can run up and he can bowl, if you like, a red ball length and swing the ball to a couple slips. I mean, it's an absolute luxury.
He's got
and he's doing it
return.
well.
Yeah, 2 for 20 so far from his 8.3 overs, Chris Woakes.
They've earned it by taking wickets, but it's simple operation for him at the moment.
Shanaka on strike. In comes Woakes, back of a length, thick inside edge, nearly onto the stumps. As Chris Woakes has his hands on his head, the ball trickles down to fine leg for a single. Sri Lanka move on to 97 for 6. Little smile on his face. You can smile about those inside edges that nearly go onto the stumps when you've already got 2 wickets and only given away 21 runs.
Yeah, and he's one of the smiliest fast bowlers England have ever had, I think.
Yeah, he's got a lovely smile and handsome chap, Chris Woakes. Wow. Big support, well supported, well liked from, by all accounts, one of the nicest men in world cricket. In he comes again, Chris Woakes. This time just on the leg stump length, just worked deftly by Karunaratne into that square leg region. They thought about taking a second for a moment, but big shouts of no from Shanaka prevented that from happening. 98 for 6. 1 ball to come in the 26th over. Shanaka into double figures. Now he's on 11 off 32 deliveries and Karunaratne on 7 off 16. Shanaka at the Oval played at a similar strike rate. He got 47 off 67. I don't think they'll be too worried about.
No, they're great.
It's about survival right now. Now then, Shanaka on strike. In comes Woakes. Full ball. It's been played uppishly into the mid-wicket region. There's no one out there. And it will go one bounce into the mid-wicket boundary for 4. Slightly against the run of play, but Sri Lanka bring up their 100 as well. 102 for 6 after 26 overs. As Sri Lankan fans in the crowd desperately look for their Sri Lankan flags to give them a wave. They haven't had much opportunity, but it's good for them to have a moment. Vic, a few thoughts from you, and then you'll be joined by Simon Mann.
Well, that feels like the first boundary for a long time.
But the first since the first ball of the 18th over,
which was
8 overs,
and that was the 26th. So yes, and now we've got Adil Rashid. We've got mystery, we've got intrigue, and we've got Simon Mann. All the same. Rashid. Well, he's got a certain license too to bowl in an aggressive fashion. He's going to have a slip right from the start. We'll see. He hasn't got, as I say, you were right to point out, it's been barren in the last 2 ODIs actually, and quite expensive. But he can come again. Simon, it's lovely to see you, but I'm going
You're
now.
off, okay. 6 overs 0 for 45 and 10 overs 0 for 50. Rashid in the series so far. 102 for 6. I wonder if they'll try to get after him. Karunaratne and Shanaka. Karunaratne is on strike. First ball, he comes forward and plays up towards mid-on, where it's picked up by Willey, and there's no run. So Morgan posting a slip fielder again for Rashid. Over extra covers an option if they want to attack him. They can pick the googly. Here is Rashid bowling. Toss that one up. Karunaratne drives, doesn't time it, goes out to extra cover and on the ground. And there is no run. So Woakes has got 1 over left. What are his figures, Andy?
2 for 26 from 9.
Here's Rashid bowling. clipped away off the back foot out towards deep mid-wicket by Karunaratne. So one more, 103 for 6 in the 27th over. So bags of overs left here for Sri Lanka, but wickets receding. There's only 100 on the board.
Woakes' figures 2 for 26 from 9 and 3 maidens, so they go with his 4 for 18 from 10 overs and 5 maidens in the first game of the series in Durham.
Yeah, benefiting from that rest again. The oval. Here is Rashid, and here's a big shot, and this is coming for 6. Over the straight long on boundary, out towards us, out towards the pavilion. And Shanaka, he couldn't resist the temptation against Rashid. Rashid into the attack. I wonder whether they might go after him a bit. They've played him pretty well so far in this series. And Rashid was pumped back over his head. So 6 more to the total, and the score goes to 109 for 6. And the ball's got to be clean because it went sort of over the advertising boards into the area where the crowd are. Although I can't see many spectators down there. I think someone from the crowd threw it back, I think. Here is Rashid bowling, pushed through and turned away by Shanaka into the onside, up towards mid-on. Willey jogs in to pick up. And one more to the total, 110 for 6. And the crowd here, I mean, as they did the over the other day, want some resistance from Sri Lanka because they want to see England extended with the bat later on. Now Rashid bowls, and Karunaratne just gets the bat down in time on that one, plays it way into the offside, picked up by the wicketkeeper Jonny Bairstow, and that's the end of Rashid's over. So 8 off the over, 110 for 6. Victor's gone. Ebony Rainford Brent is here.
Hello, yeah, I was just having a look at Adil Rashid's field, actually. He's gone more for a leg side dominant field. So the deep field is a mid-on, mid-off, the 2 straight, and then the leg side is covered, which is actually was the right shot, I think, for Shanaka. He knows the ball's going to be bowled straight at the stumps, and he's going to be looking for more LBWs, but actually also that brings in the opportunity to use your feet if it's not turning in. So it was a nice shot. You almost feel they just need a million more of those just to get them going.
Just the million.
Just the million. I would say that what's interesting about them, there's been signs of good stuff from all of them. We've seen it from Shanaka, we've seen it from Hasaranga at times.
Dhananjaya Silva in the last game. Woakes bowls, driven by Shanaka up towards mid-off, and there's no run.
So there's enough. It's not that they're that far away. It's just being able to back it up and put it together in maybe 3 doing it at the same time, rather than it just being one player that does well and no one else scores. I don't know how you crack that, really. You need a few people firing and coming at you.
110 for 6. Woakes bowls, short, chopped away, but straight to Roy at backward point, and there's no run.
I think that's what you see with England. Look at the bowlers at the moment. They just keep coming. So it's not one bowler. It's not one in isolation. It's both Woakes and Willey at the same time. Then it's, it might be Rashid coming in or Wood coming. They just keep coming as a unit. I feel like Sri Lanka have got the makings of bits, but they just can't stitch 2 or 3 performances together at the same time.
Woakes from the Ashley Down end. He's changed ends from his opening spell. Bowls to Shanaka, who dabs that into the offside. Picked up by Roy at backward point, and there's no run. I think one of their problems is they haven't got 2 or 3 high-class players anymore. They haven't got 2 or 3 world-class players that can, occasionally when your side is struggling, when you look to your world-class player or 2 and they get you out of trouble, they reel off 100. Whereas I don't see that in this Sri Lanka side. There's players who are, of course they're talented because they're playing for their country. But there's not that really high quality. Woakes bowls, Shanaka turns it away into the onside, backward a square. They're off for a single, 111 for 6 in the 28th over.
But then you turn to, let's accept we're all, I don't mean in a harsh way, but maybe more average players. Then the disciplines become better, right? Our rotation of strike needs to be improved game on game. Our shot option, in some ways it's not a bad thing when you don't have that superstar, because the narrative becomes we all need to be really disciplined at every single...
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So you have to really work at it as a team to improve.
3 slips here.
Yeah, 3 slips. I mean, Karunaratne is on strike. This is Woakes' last over. He's got 2 balls left. And Woakes bowls, and Karunaratne comes forward and plays it towards mid-off, and there's no run. I mean, that really is making a statement there from Morgan, isn't it? I know it's 111 for 6, and this is, it's his main bowler bowling his last over, and he's there to get wickets. I mean, but 3 slips in.
He's not messing about. Every decision he's made, even not, I thought he might have let Garton have a go today, or no, he's ruthless. He's coming at you. He wants those wickets.
Yeah, reminiscent of Australia, when I think they had 5 slips in a one-day international against England at Old Trafford. Here's Woakes bowling, played away into the onside for a single by Karunaratne, who goes to 9. And that is the end of Woakes' over. It's the end of Woakes' spell.
Chris Woakes, 10 overs, 3 maidens, 28 runs, and 2 wickets.
There we are. You don't really need me to tell you. The PA system is very loud here at Bristol. It's quite close to our commentary box, but excellent from Woakes to back up his figures at Riverside the other day.
His series figures, those 2 innings combined, 6 for 46 from 20 overs with 8 maidens. It's the most maidens an England bowler has bowled in a one-day series since 2007. And bear in mind, he only played 2 games of this. Jimmy Anderson played 7 in that series against India in 2007. And Woakes' economy rate is the best by an England bowler in a one-day series since 2003, 2.2 per over.
It's going to be Rashid to continue his second over. And he's going to be bowling to Karunaratne, who guides it away towards backward point, and there's no run. I wonder whether Karunaratne is going to take on Rashid, or whether it's just going to be Shanaka that does it.
Sorry, 2.3 per over it was.
We've got a long off in, and Morgan's just debating here about his field, whether he wants cover up and long on in, or long on in and deep cover back. He's gone for deep cover back, so there is room over mid-on's head. Here is Rashid bowling, and that's the googly. It's down the leg side, it's a wide. Yeah, of course, if you're against the leg spin, you're hitting against it. If you go over long on, you might miscue it to long off. Here is Rashid, outside the off stump. Shanaka plays a rather indeterminate shot there, trying to poke it into the offside, hits it hard into the surface. It bounces to root at slip, and there's no run. Sun's gone now, there's some dark clouds overhead, a possibility of a shower in about 20 minutes apparently. 113 for 6. Rashid bowls. Karunaratne turns it to the right of mid-wicket. Morgan hurls the ball to stumps, the non-striker's end misses. It was not far away, and they pinch an overthrow as well, but it was worth taking that on from Morgan. So I think if he'd hit, that would have been very close. Anyway, they get 2. It was backed up by Woakes, coming around and in from long off. 115 for 6. We're in the 29th over. Karunaratne to 11. Shanaka is on 23. Rashid bowls, and Karunaratne plays a respectful defensive shot. He held the pose there, bat and pad close together, head right over it.
Seen 1 spin so far, the rest haven't really, but just 1 earlier in the over.
115 for 6. Rashid to Karunaratne, bowls, played quietly into the onside, picked up by Morgan at mid-wicket. There's no run. I'd like to see that run out, actually. I don't think they've shown it on the monitor, a replay of it. It was out if he'd hit. Morgan, his reaction suggested it was. Anyway, he missed. That was the most important thing. Rashid bowls. Oh, and that's high up on the bat. Karunaratne out towards extra cover. It went on the bounce. Loud shout of catch from Jonny Bairstow, and that's the end of Rashid's over. That last ball was 49 miles an hour, which is pretty slow for a spinner. 115 for 6, and perhaps that was the reason for the miscue.
Yeah, the ball before was 58, so he fired the one in before and then really tried to drag it back. I just think maybe because it's not spinning as much as he hoped, he's going to use the variation of pace a bit more.
Yeah, so end of Rashid's over. He's bowled 2 overs for 11.
That looks like something you might head out in the crowd.
Yeah, yes. Well, you better tell.
How do you describe it?
Well, that is a challenge, actually. It's someone in the crowd with, well,
it's a full-on fancy dress animal of some sort.
Yeah, and he's got a tie on as well, a purple and black tie on over the top of his animal fancy dress. He must have lost a bet or something, mustn't he? Well, must be
Or
for
maybe,
charity.
maybe he just likes.
Must be for charity, that.
Must be
It's
for
an
charity.
extraordinary get-up, isn't it?
Do you dress up when you go to the football? You put your football shirt on or anything?
Well,
No?
I did put something on, yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
well, I hope so. Hope for the other fans and.
No, I don't. I'm not. I don't. When I go, I don't wear a football shirt. Here is a do-over from Curran. It's dabbed down towards deep third by Shanaka for a single. Rashid sends it into Bairstow. 116 for 6. Start of the 30th over.
Not even a cap or a scarf. Who do you support? Who's your team? Bristol, isn't it?
Yeah.
Would you go to a game with a scarf, a hat?
No.
Nothing.
No. Well, no, just sort of normal dress.
Don't need it with a tattoo as big as yours. Do you, Tom?
Can you spot it on my forehead? I covered it up. Use the makeup to cover it up. 116 for 6. Karunaratne is edge and caught really well by Bairstow away to his right-hand side. That's a fine catch. And it's another wicket for Tom Curran, who's been short of them, but he's now picked up 3. Very good from Bairstow. Thick edge, one-handed low to his right-hand side. 116 for 7.
That is a ridiculous catch. First of all, that was going at some speed, and also the ball was dying down to his right. So it wasn't like the previous he took, which was a nice catchable height across. He had to kind of take it almost fractionally behind and slightly lower and arch the back at some pace. Tell you what, that was a wicket worth celebrating, which Tom Curran did do, both hands stretched. Just thought if there was going to be a rebuild or a bit of a partnership, it was these two who were just getting the start. But ruthless England opened the door again.
Yeah, that partnership was worth
29
for the 7th wicket, but it does not inflict much damage. Binura Fernando, tall figure of Binura Fernando, in at number 9 for Sri Lanka. So 30th over, 116 for 7. And England just continue to chip away.
Third wicket for Tom Curran in 32 balls today. As I mentioned earlier on, he'd taken only 3 in his previous 87 overs over 11 matches.
Yeah, it's an important lift for him, really.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because Owen Morgan said he's looking at this for the T20 side, and there's a few players that, these wickets or these moments could make a difference on do they feature in that 11. Moeen Ali is a player who's trying to get in form. Cleveland Livingston would want to be there in case there's a drop in form. All these players, because it's such a good side, every little opportunity counts.
Yeah, I think that's the point. To some extent, that Morgan was making at the toss. You can't just give people. There are people who want to stay in this side. Anyway, some people say they should have used the squad, but they haven't. Russell Arnold, they're having a quick drinks break here. Russell, well, it's more of the same really as far as Sri Lanka are concerned.
Yeah, nothing different. Too easy for England. Yes, they're spot on. They're very good and competing with each other for places. But from Sri Lanka's point of view, they should really be trying to push England a lot more. And the most disappointing thing that I'm noticing is batsmen are being dismissed the same way every game. Wanindu Hasaranga has shown some fight, but played the same shot to get himself out. He's not playing it well. He's not in a great position to play that pull shot at all. And all the English bowlers are feeding him that, and he just slogs it to the deep. Same with Dhananjaya Silva, a couple of times caught in the deep with that shorter one. So it's quite predictable and so easy for the English bowlers. Even Avishka Fernando, the ball moving back in, it's trapping him in front, and there's no changes being done in how they're trying to combat it. So that's the worrying factor for me.
Thanks, Russell. Play about to resume. New man about to take strike. 116 for 7. Binura Fernando in at number 9, and we've had Russell regularly with us during this one-day series, saying that Fernando's not the worst, so there's still some work to do here. It's not just rolling over. Fernando plays that nicely away into the offside to get off the mark. In fact, so nice it's gone before. There's no man sweeping on the deep cover boundary. So used to seeing someone out there, though that's gone for 1, but it's gone for 4.
Yeah, well, they've got the
Two
slips in, so they've left that, and I can understand why. They want the batters at this stage to be flirting outside that off stump. What he did well, though, was play it quite late and square. He didn't, you know, sometimes you get too straight, actually, and end up bringing that outside edge in, but if you can wait, open it up, then that boundary is there.
Well, it's a nice shot. He made decent contact. 120 for 78. He made 17 at the Oval, and he made 20 in the third T20 match down in Southampton. Here's Curran leaning forward as he runs in, bowls to Fernando. Some away swing there with these white balls. They have swung a bit in this series. You don't expect to see them swing very much, but it has swung. But Fernando let that one go. And, taken by Jonny Bairstow. Far more comfortable take than the one he caught for the catch. It was a very good catch away to his right. He did put one down at the Oval the other day. It was high to his right. I think he was with me at the time. I think it was Jimmy saying, got your glove to it, should have caught it. Here's Curran bowling, thickish edge down towards backward point. It's picked up by Jason Roy, and there is no run. 120 for 7. Jimmy having no sympathy whatsoever. You know, I find the edge. You
catch it, you take it.
Yeah.
No messing about.
Exactly. And Bairstow did that there.
Yeah, he did really, really well.
Tom Curran under leaden skies now. Bowls to Fernando, who edges that, and that I think would have been a fourth slip catch. It was high up on the bat, down towards deep third. Rashid is there. They're through for another single to end the over. Successful one for Curran. He's taken 3 for 22. That's Tom Curran from 6 overs. It's 121 for 7. 20 overs available to Sri Lanka, but only 3 wickets left. Ebony and then Charles Dagnall.
Well, Shanaka has dug in to an extent, 24 of 40. Thought he had a nice, it was a half century, wasn't it, in the T20s that he had. Just having a quick look back. Yeah, in the first T20 of 44 balls, looked like a standout at that moment, and one of the players that you thought, and again when he did that, actually it was a tricky situation where there were wickets falling at the other end, so he's got the ability to dig in, Daggers.
He certainly does. Afternoon, Ebony. Rashid will continue. I think Simon Mann's got out of here in perfect timing, according to sources.
Oh.
Big smile on his face. The back of the box. Rashid continues. A googly first, and Binura just guides it to backward point. I think he feels, being a local, there could be a little inclemency on the way, and he's peered over the back of the box. And grinning, just nods his head. Anyway, Rashid, let's hope it doesn't. Bowls on a good length, and Binura tentatively comes forward. It catches the inside edge of the bat and trickles to Morgan, the captain at mid-wicket. There is a slip in place. Joe Root with his hands behind his back. Orange sunglasses atop his peaked cap as Rashid once more. Quicker delivery onto the back foot goes the tall figure of Binura, guiding it to Sam Curran at backward point. There is a sort of a deep gully, if you like, on the ring. A cover point, extra cover, long off, long on, mid-wicket, short, fine leg. Binura bowls. Sorry, Binura plays the ball from Rashid out into the offside. Just churning through some dots here is Adil. Dwarfed by a huge figure of umpire David Milnes. A wide black-brimmed hat. Overcoat on as well. And this one hurries on to Binura, who shuffles back in the crease and plays it back up the pitch.
He whizzes through, doesn't he, Rashid? This is not what you want when your team's up against it. They just keep coming. There's no breathing space. Just made a few changes, though.
England happy to give Binura the strike at the start of the next over, so deep point goes out, as does long on. Rashid twirls the arms and doesn't pick the googly, but he does manage to squeeze it through the onside for a single, so he gratefully collects it. I think Sri Lanka will take any run that's offered to them at this juncture. 122 for 7 at the end of the 31st over. Binura Fernando 6 not out, and Dasun Shanaka 24 not out.
Daggers, life mission. One of those flat, not maybe just at this ground. There's a number of grounds now with the flats overlooking the cricket. Is that not life made?
Is it what you would like one?
Well, I'm just looking at these, all the flats that are now having mini parties.
Yes.
For an England
you can
international.
do that. Yeah, but you can do that in a regular flat.
No, but not overlooking the actual cricket. Do you see what I mean? Like owning a flat, or even renting it for a week. I don't know if you can get it on one of those sites.
I'm sure that would up the price of a flat if you got sort of free cricket for a summer. Somerset have flats, don't they? At the side of Taunton.
Somerset do. Canterbury do now, don't they? They're side on though. I'm not sure about those.
No, they look quite smart.
Aren't they side on though? I prefer behind the bowler's arm.
Oh, okay. As Curran with 3 slips in place, bowls, and Binura works that into the offside for a single. Big gap in the cover region, and Rashid is patrolling the offside boundary. A single collected, 123 for 7.
Must be a nightmare with estate agents happening.
Yes, sorry. Could I get it? Make sure that the trajectory means that I can see the early swing.
So that's Somerset out for you. Canterbury out, and
where else?
Strictly speaking, 2/3 of the flats here.
Yeah.
Lots of places are doing it. It's actually, if you've got the land spare, it's quite fruitful for the club finances. Curran now with just 1 slip for Shanaka. Field goes into a more orthodox one-day field at this part of the game. Bowles and Shanaka content just to go forward and prod it out through the offside to David Willey for another single, 124 for 7.
I'll sell tickets to my mates as well, so I wouldn't invite you around and say daggers.
It's going to cost me to come and have a party at your house.
Well, not cost you, but I'll give you for the half price the actual ticket sales. So you're getting a benefit being my mate, but it's, got to pay off for that mortgage.
You've got to really want to watch Gloucestershire or Kent or Somerset.
Yeah.
But if you are a supporter of those teams, I can see it being hugely beneficial as Curran bowls. Binura goes back to one that's a full-length ball. There could be confusion here. Run out at the non-striker's end potentially, but the underarm throw from Billings, who was only 5 yards or so away from the 3 stumps. Unusually for him, he doesn't connect, and Dasun Shanaka survives. Would have been well gone. He gave up.
He did give up. The communication again poor. I don't think Fernando was interested at all. Shanaka was a decent way down, actually.
You see, Billings had a go at the stumps. Would have actually been plenty of time to actually just lob the ball to Tom Curran, who was herring back, and he could have whipped off the bails. As it stands, Shanaka remains at the non-striker's end as Curran approaches Binura and gets the ball on an awkward length, but he negotiates it well with a straight bat. He seemed pretty organised at the crease, Binura. Fernando, 20 in the last T20 international. He made 17 in the second one-dayer off 15 balls. So he's not a bunny.
But he played a nice square drive to get a boundary and get off the mark early.
Just a reminder, Chris Woakes has bowled his full allocation of 10 overs. Bowled beautifully as well. 2 for 28 with 3 maidens. Curran headband on. Oh, big swing and a miss. In fact, he's caught the outside edge. Actually did hear a little sound off the bat of Fernando, and as well as he had played in an organised fashion, that was a little rush of blood and a feather of an edge, and Jonny Bairstow gets yet another catch, and the 8th Sri Lankan wicket falls with the score on 124.
That was disappointing. That was an absolute hoof. After playing a nice shot through the covers, and we're talking about he actually looked organised at the crease. Clearly he's got skills. I would argue, yes, I understand your team's on the pump, but why do you not want to get your name in the hat? He's known as a bowler, but you can add some runs and get yourself in the captain and coach. Why not dig in and play some shots?
The other aspect to that, and you make a really good point, is that he's got far less to defend. It's in his interest to actually stick out there with Shanaka. Maybe if he even gets a 30-ball 15 or a 40-ball 15, Shanaka can play at the other end, and you're getting Sri Lanka up to a 160, 170, and then even up to 200. And then of course it's not what you would want, but it gives you a little bit more to bowl at, and it's in the bowler's interest.
I don't know what was going on there. That was a hoof. After playing some nice shots, good organised, you knew they'd set you up with having 3 slips, so they're going to be saying, go on, tempting you, go on, have a flirt out there, but
I'm not quite sure of that one. Anyway, Chameera, Dushmantha Chameera, who's been hugely impressive with the ball, comes out to join Shanaka, and I wonder if we're going to see a slight change in approach from Dasun Shanaka.
Yeah, potentially. Now he knows that he's really wagging with the tail, and he might just think if the boundary opportunity is there, I've got to take it. There's no point digging in. I mean, I don't know what the 150 is a positive if they can from here. It feels still like a long way away the way they're playing.
It's just a gifted wicket. Got to make bowlers earn it. Tom Curran, meanwhile, 4 for 24. Brother with 5 for in last one-day international. Well, here's Chameera waiting for Curran and just gets wrapped on the pad. It might have just been sliding down the leg side or an inside edge. We were slightly shadowed by the figure of the batsman there, but matters not. It's a dot ball to finish. 124 for 8 after 32 overs. So if you are just joining us, Sri Lanka, after being asked to bat first, Fernando top of the Avishka making 14, Perera 9, Nissanka 6, Dhananjaya made 4, Oshada Fernando 18, Hasaranga 20, Karunaratne 11 and Binura Fernando 7. Wickets to fall for the bowlers. Chris Woakes 2 for 28 off 10 overs. David Willey 2 for 36 off 7. Sam Curran wicketless. Tom Curran has 4 for 24. Adil Rashid with the 3 overs of his leg spin. We'll make it 4 now, as assuming he completes the over. Continues from the pavilion end. It is a blanket of murky grey overhead, slowly oozing across the skyline as a wide delivery from Rashid. Just borderline, probably just going along those little indicating lines that the umpires have. So not signalled. It remains 124 for 8. Stewards lining the stands in their bright yellow luminous jackets. Statuesque as Adil Rashid bowls another straight delivery. Defended out into the offside by Shanaka. Little Hawaiian shirts over in the distance to our left-hand side in the crowd. One that drifts in slightly by Rashid. Gets played forcefully out through the offside. Sam Curran slightly misfields, but no damage done, as Chris Woakes was there tidying up behind him. Single taken, 125 for 8. St George's flags spotted around the ground. There's a couple off the balconies in the flats opposite. A couple of it. St George's flag draped over their shoulders. The back end of the temporary stand over to our left. People milling around as Rashid bowls a flatter, googly this time, completely not picked by Dushmantha Chameera. Allows it to hit him on the pad, and Bairstow round from the back of the stumps.
Getting good value for those flags at the moment.
Oh,
take it out last night, take it out today.
Rashid twirls the arms, bowls on the off stump. Perfect defence from Chameera. Yeah, it's definitely industry to get in.
I saw the man outside the ground early this morning. He was out there early with all the flags. Yeah.
Mexican wave has started.
Oh, wow.
There we go.
I haven't seen one of those at a cricket ground in a long time.
Usually happens when things aren't necessarily that entertaining. So the crowd make their own. There's a flighted delivery from Rashid. Gets driven by Chameera to get him off the mark. Out towards deep extra cover, and it concludes the 33rd over. 126 for 8. The score here at Bristol. There's cricket going on across the country, all of which you can hear via the cricket section of the BBC Sport website. Lancashire versus Kent has been delayed at Old Trafford. Expecting James Anderson to be part of the Lancashire side in the county championship. Yorkshire 38 for 2 against Northamptonshire at Wantage Road. Sussex Glamorgan has been delayed due to the weather. Derbyshire 44 for 3 in the A52 derby against Nottinghamshire at Trent Bridge. Warwickshire for the A52 derby, the Brian Clough Way. And umbrellas are going up and coats are being donned in fairly swift fashion by all in the temporary stand to our left-hand side, which is not good to see. Play does continue though as Tom Curran bowls and continues to bowl from the Ashley Down Road end. His first delivery is back of a length and played to Morgan through the offside, and Phil Tufnell has returned as the rain seems to be coming down.
It's a passage shower.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a passage shower.
Okay. Well, that gives me cause for optimism.
Yes. Yes, like to see 3 slips in there. This could be an interesting one. He's got 4 for us, hasn't he, Tom Curran? I wonder when the last time.
Oh, here we go. As Curran bowls, forward comes Chameera in defence. Can I finish your sentence?
Yeah.
Wonder when the last time 2 brothers got consecutive fifers on consecutive days in one-day international cricket.
Has that already been brought up?
Not yet, Tuffers, but thanks for...
in the year ending in 1.
Sorry, yeah.
Off you go, Andy.
I just thought he was looking a bit... He was just nodding off there next to me. I just thought I'd give him a little cheer.
Well done you, as Curran with headband on beats. Chameera on the outside edge, and actually it bobbles through to Jonny Bairstow, who mishandles it. And it goes through for an unfortunate bye. 127 for 8. I bet the Bedsers.
Oh, well, that's a very good shout.
Something like that. The Bedsers, would they
Didn't play a lot of one-day internationals. Do you mean just in one-day internationals, Tuffers, or in all cricket?
I was just trying to think of brothers who played. Did Mark and Steve Waugh ever get fifers consecutively?
What other brothers have there been?
The 2 Ratnikers.
Very good.
Curran bowls, and this is slashed away by Shanaka into space, though he's got away with one. Tried to launch it through the onside. He got a thickish outside edge and skewed into a sort of short third man position. It will bring him 2, and I wondered if we'd see a change of approach from Shanaka with the tail. If he went to be a little bit more aggressive, he moves to 28, and it's 129 for 8.
I was only, I am interested, but if you can't be bothered, don't worry. It's nearly lunch. It's nearly lunch.
That judges the interest level. The rain is still coming down, a bit of drizzle and brizzle as forward comes Shanaka. Wants a quick single to Jason Roy. He'll get one, even though there's a shy at the non-striker's end, which almost knocks Adil Rashid off his feet. 130 for 8.
I'd fall out with my mate Jason Roy.
Why?
Because he loves a hurl at the stumps when there's no need for it, isn't it? I mean, he was well home there, and old Moeen Ali's probably copped one on the end of a finger there.
And it was a bobbler.
It was a little skimmer, bouncing bomber.
Yeah. Yes, the Barnes Wallace, I think they call it.
Yes, and you don't want to cop one of them when the bloke's turning round and he's already made his own. 4
slips for Curran, bowling to Chameera, who quite comfortably just plays it through the offside. Out to Adil Rashid, who hurtles in from the third man boundary, and a single is taken. Jonny Bairstow politely inquires about a run-out chance, but that's nothing more than that. 34 overs gone, 131 for 8. They're staying out there, Tuffers. That's good news.
Why not? Even though a few more brollies are popping up now, yeah. Oh, there's a beauty over there, a really big one.
Where?
Like a big golfing umbrella.
Well, that's the thing to bring. I always wonder if there's an etiquette to umbrellas, because if you bring a golfing umbrella to a cricket ground and you're in the stands, you're not just going to be covering yourself.
No.
You'll be covering others as well, and perhaps skewing the vision. Maybe a businessman's umbrella.
Yes.
Just slightly smaller in diameter.
Or perhaps one of those see-through ones.
Yes. Perhaps that's a great idea. There's much more of a dome to those. They're like a jellyfish, aren't they? Rashid bowls the next ball down the leg side, signalled wide by umpire Milnes. 131 for 8.
And also, you could say the person behind you could see through it. That's what makes.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
I did see where you were going with that.
Sorry, I thought you were thinking about the domed shape. Sorry.
Rashid bowls and Googly just sliding down the leg side. I fancy Rashid not interested. Jonny Bairstow more so, but then he admits he thought it was going down the leg side. They used to have those little hat umbrellas, didn't they? That you would wear it like a headband and it would just cover you.
Yeah, I think they were mainly for the sun, though.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Yes, only a head would stay dry. It was a big swing and a miss by Chameera, trying to drive the ball through the offside to an orthodox leg break.
A little bit of spin, isn't it? He's spinning the googly. The googly's actually sort of jagging a bit, but the leggy just floating away from him.
This one just carries on, and Chameera doesn't quite pick it. He's stuck in the crease. Again, it's sliding down the leg side. The rain's coming a little bit heavier, I fancy.
Come on.
There's less of a break. It's more filled in, I'm afraid.
We've been lucky so far.
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. The forecast wasn't good to have as much cricket as we have had. And you can hear David Milne saying, yep, we're going off And Jonny Bairstow removes 2 of the 3 stumps, lays them on the ground along with the flashing zinc bales, and the players slowly trudge off the pitch down towards our right-hand side where the changing room entrance is. And Dasun Shanaka, that must be a blowing across the ground, and we can see with the flags opposite us on the grandstand on the far left-hand side, they're actually pointing in the direction of sort of top left-hand cow corner if the batter's at this end, the pavilion end, and that's where the weather's been coming from, and hopefully it's just going to blow a very, very dark-looking blanket away and we can get back underway. There's no immediate hurry to get the tarpaulins on. The ground staff just walking to our right-hand side to put the rest of the covers on the square. So that's kind of good news, but the umbrellas are still up, and whilst we have this little brain break. Let's have a little chat about the forthcoming Pakistan series. Starting on Thursday, there's 3 one-day internationals and 3 T20s. Atif Nawaz has been keeping an eye on the Pakistan side. He's along with us. Phil Tufnell as well. I've seen them loosening up in Derby. What a place to get loose. Derby is just the place where I would, if there was ever a place to choose to get loose, Derby is where how have they looked? I saw them loosening up. They looked in pretty good order.
Yes, well, they've been playing a lot of inter-squad practice games. There's the Babar Azam 11 playing against the Shadab Khan 11. And Babar Azam in a practice game 2 days ago managed to get himself a century and 60 balls. So he's looking good, and there'll be big expectations of him. But yeah, I think they quite like Derby because last year they were in Derby as well before the Test series against England, and the year before that, I think their training camp before the World Cup was in Derby as well. So there's something about Derby that really appeals to that Pakistan team.
There's something about
Derby.
Yeah.
I see a movie being made starring Babar Azam and Shadab Khan as the main characters within that. They are, of course, going to be a sterner test for England. They've got excellent seamers. They've got very, very good seamers, and arguably, I would argue, one of the best limited overs batsmen in the world in Babar Azam. We're going to see a stiffer test. How stiff?
Very stiff. Well, Pakistan will be coming into this with a much more, in a weird way, much more settled batting order than England has at the moment. England still have this issue of sort of strengthening depth and not quite knowing how to accommodate the best, most organised top order, particularly in one-day international cricket. Whereas Pakistan are getting very, very organised. They've already settled their top 4. It will almost certainly be Babar Azam opening with Mohammad Rizwan, in the T20s at least, Mohammad Hafiz coming in at 3 and Fakhr Zaman coming in at 4s, or the other way around, in fact. So Fakhr Zaman obviously is an opening batsman, but he's kind of settled into that 3 spot because Babar quite likes opening the batting. And Rizwan's form this year has been amongst the best players in the world.
Are you talking T20 here as opposed to one-day internationals? Because in ODIs,
yes,
I'd be tempted with your big gun in Babar Azam. I would be just tempted to bet him at 3 or 4. Fakhr, we know, has got a decent record as an opening batsman, and he is dangerous, seriously dangerous.
He's been out of touch recently for her,
but he likes it here.
He does like it.
Scored runs here.
Famously won Pakistan, scored a century in the Champions Trophy final against India in 2017, and that's when he kind of first burst onto the world cricket scene. But in recent times, he's had a couple of nice innings this year, but other than that, and you've got to remember this Pakistan team's played a lot of cricket. They were in New Zealand over the winter. They toured South Africa. They toured Zimbabwe. They've had the PSL over 2 legs, half of it in Pakistan, and then interrupted by COVID. And then they finished off in Abu Dhabi. So they've played a lot of cricket. It's Rizwan who's been the standout for Pakistan this year. He's supplanted Sarfraz Ahmed from the team, and Sarfraz obviously was the captain when they won the Champions Trophy.
Who's a great player in his own
Absolutely.
right.
There's a chance, Tuffers, that he plays as a specialist batsman, particularly in the one-day side, because his form in the PSL was very, very strong. But in Pakistan, they do this thing more so than in other countries, where they'll take someone's one-day international or first-class form and use that as an example of, right, he might be handy in T20 cricket, or what's even more bizarre is taking someone's T20 form and say, we'll give him a go in the Test side. So after this, Pakistan are going to go to the West Indies, and they've already announced their Test squad for that. And they took a player that was the top wicket taker in this year's PSL was a chap called Shahnawaz Dhani. And his first season he's played professional cricket. They really like the look of him. They've thrown him into the Test squad.
They're never shy of doing that, Pakistan, as well. You have a little bit of ability, and you usually it's with quick bowlers as well, and we've seen some very, very young quick bowlers come through, maybe get a bit of experience in the PSL, and that's been it. If they like the look of you, you're going to get the opportunity to play, and that's something I absolutely love.
I don't think that's a bad thing. If you're good enough, you're old enough, get in there. Especially quick bowling as well. I think, if you're perhaps a spinner or a batsman, perhaps you just need to have that little bit of something to fall back on. But if you're raw, you're quick, get in there and have a go and steam in. Who was the chap who bowled really quick at Old Trafford when we was in the bubble?
It was possibly Naseem Shah. He's missed out this year, so he's not in the squad. He's very young, of course. He was 17 at the time. As a 16-year-old, he took a hat-trick against
I loved
Sri Lanka.
Naseem. And we saw him against Australia and in the Test series out there. And people, especially in Australia, I remember, I think I was covering that series a little bit, and watching Naseem bowl, his raw nature, obviously very, very new to international cricket, but the effect that he had on the Australians and also, I think, more the public.
Yes.
I mean, there's a huge
excitement,
a challenge to go there of all
course.
Places and make you and try and make an impression. But he really did, and the way that he bowled, I was looking forward to hopefully sort of seeing him. I've got the squads. I've just been handed the squads in the one-day internationals. Barbara Azam, Shadab Khan, Abdullah Shafiq, Fahim Ashraf, good player, Fakir Zaman, Haider Ali, Haris Rauf. Haris Rauf is another one of those seamers as well who can bowl very, very quickly indeed. Haris Sahel, Hassan Ali, Imam ul Haq, Mohammed Hasnain, Mohammed Nawaz, Mohammed Rizwan, Salman Ali Aga, Sarfraz Ahmed, Saud Shakil, Shaheen Shah Afridi, whose hair is just a different level.
The booth. It's a beautiful booth.
The density of his hair.
Like a Pakistani anchorman.
It really is. He really is. And Usman Kadir as well. So Shaheen is one of those seamers. I know we've gone off the topic of slightly of batsmen, but Shaheen is one of those left-arm quick bowlers, 90 miles an hour, really good change-ups. The PSL has been, and he's also played some blast cricket as well for Hampshire. He took four balls last year. There is plenty to like about Pakistan. Which way are they going to be going?
Well, I mean, they're definitely going to push England closer than Sri Lanka have. That much we can say with certainty. I mean, they're obviously a very unpredictable
I think
team.
the Plume of Feathers third 11 might push them, but continue, sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, there's a lot of class and a lot of experience about that team. So the big characteristic of the Sri Lanka team is they're very unsettled, whereas the Pakistan team have been building, and they've had this vision for the World T20 for a very long time. And, Misbah ul Haq, their coach, is very cerebral, kind of Owen Morgan-like in that sense, where he really likes to hone in on his plans and be as detail-orientated as possible. There's been a little bit of uncertainty. I mean, Yunus Khan has just resigned recently from the PCB amid sort of semi-controversial circumstances. But it's Pakistani cricket. It wouldn't be fun with no controversy, right? So, I mean, that's the only kind of little gripe. But their preparation has been very strong. There's a lot of attention on an England tour. Well, when any country comes, but Pakistan, they have huge amounts of support in the UK as well. So, I think they're gonna do very well. Whether they win or not, I mean, I certainly think they'll win at least a few games. I think if they don't take the ODI series, they'll certainly take the T20. They just seem a very settled lineup, and historically they've played very well in England as well in their T20 cricket. Last year when they played the 3-match series, one was rained off, but they shared a match each, England and Pakistan, at Old Trafford. So I think it'll be very close. And regarding Shaheen, I mean, very quick, still very young. He's only 20 years old.
Yeah.
And he's already...
Is he still only 20?
He's been extraordinary over the last year. There was a lot of concerns about Shaheen as well, because they took him to South Africa and they took him to Zimbabwe, which seemed a bit, maybe a good opportunity to rest him. But apparently he wants to play every game he possibly can. He doesn't want to sit on the bench.
What is interesting to me, and it's especially given the way that we have seen Sri Lanka, let's make no bones, they have been poor. England are good, yes, but they have been poor as well. Decision-making, shot selection, the standard of the bowling that they've got, save a couple of players. And I look at Sri Lanka's domestic structure, and it is a mess. There's probably 30 first-class sides. They've only just started the Lanka Premier League, and, it's in its infancy, and, players haven't been allowed to develop from there. Pakistan was not in a similar situation, but regarding white ball cricket, the PSL... They were at T20 before the PSL. Pakistan were nowhere. They were absolutely nowhere. Now, I think I'm fair in saying that. They weren't a great T20 side. They didn't play the modern way. The PSL has come along. It's allowed these players to emerge, young talent to emerge, and for them to actually increase their productivity in white ball cricket.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's slightly unfair to say they were slightly. I mean, they did win a World T20 in 2009, but that was a long time ago, Daggers. You're very right.
There weren't. I mean, even the IPL was only 2 years on from that.
Well,
and
this is the thing.
A lot of people were making their way.
It's interesting you mentioned the IPL, because I think a lot of people will point to the fact that Pakistani players aren't allowed to play in the IPL, and that has had a detrimental effect on their cricket, because, let's call the IPL what it is. It is the highest standard of T20 cricket in the world. I asked Owen Morgan this. I said to him, what's higher what's a higher standard, the World T20 or the IPL? And he didn't give me a definitive answer, which tells me that it's close.
Yeah.
So, if Pakistan are now not allowed into play in this league, they had to find a way to develop their players, to give them that access to the world's best players. And now with the PSL, as you rightly say, Daggers, they have that. Players like, A.B. de Villiers and Dale Steyn and these cricketers with experience all over the world coming and plying their trade in Pakistan, spending time with those young players, getting them used to that environment and that pressure scenario that they're going to face on a regular basis.
From England's perspective, Phil, they do need testing. They really...
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The World Cup or the World T20 not far away.
Yeah, and people were sort of saying that, that the 50-over game is going to be slightly put on the back burner now, isn't it, and what have you. You've got to keep your eye on the ball. It's as simple as that. You've got to keep pushing, because as soon as you do sort of lift off the gas, it all sort of goes away, and all that cohesion goes away. So I think I think Eoin Morgan will be looking forward to the challenge of Pakistan coming over here.
Really looking forward to this.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Yeah, it's going to be some cut and thrust.
Very much so. Just to say that the covers are still on at the moment. It does look brighter now that the floodlights have been turned on. That could be one reason for it, but there's just a feeling of brightness and the fact that the sun's trying to force its way through this bullet grey sky that's above us, but there is one or two little lighter areas, but the umbrellas are starting to come down, and Simon Mann, the Bristolian, is giving me a thumbs up and a sort of maybe it will stop, and we think it is stopping, and there's nothing definitive actually about the hand signals.
Nothing committed.
Yeah, there isn't. But the blotter is out, just doing some soaking up of the surface water on the tarpaulins. But I'm feeling a bit of heat from somewhere, so fingers crossed it won't be too long before we get out into the middle.
The cows are standing up in the far field.
I always wondered, you see, you talk about that, but I wondered what that meant, because I've seen cows.
They weren't just stretching their legs.
I've seen cows stood up and it's sunny. I've seen them stood up when it's raining. I've seen them laying down in both types of weather as well. So there was no definitive answer as to what cows do to either predict the weather or how the weather is currently.
And how do they know?
How do they know?
And why would they sit down?
Oh, to be in a cow's mind, huh?
No, well, there you go. Oh, did you see the octopus?
Where?
The octopus. No. Do you remember?
In Bristol?
No. The octopus. The octopus picking out the football teams who were going to go and win.
Oh, right.
Yes, there was an octopus, and an elephant has been doing it as well. Talking of animals. Yeah, no, I found that on the internet the other day.
And what did the elephant pick?
I don't know. He hasn't done it yet.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Oh, well, we'll wait.
A large bun.
Something like that, indeed, with its four knees, and the cow with its four stomachs.
Yes.
There you go.
It's clearing up.
It is clearing up, and we're just waiting. I'm just having a look for umpires. Usually they're lurking.
I've got four stomachs at the moment.
Have you?
Feels like
Philly four stomachs.
Yes.
Well, it's we can see a little bit more movement from the ground staff actually, and them looking more purposeful as they walk towards the tarpaulin covers. Who are we? We know about Babar Azam, we know about Shaheen Shah Afridi, we know about Mohammad Rizwan and Fakhar Zaman. Who do we not know about?
There's a few players.
Pakistan side.
There's one I mentioned a little bit earlier on comms as well. Azam Khan is going to be really interesting to look at. He's a very exciting, very aggressive T20 player, and he's the son of Moeen Khan, of course, who kept wicket for Pakistan. And Misbah-ul Haq has made it very clear that he intends to play him as well.
What does he do?
He's a batsman. He's an aggressive batsman and a wicketkeeper like his father as well. Some people sort of refer a bit negatively to his physique. He's not in the best shape one can be, but he's shown some great power hitting in T20 cricket, and he can clear any kind of boundary certainly that he encounters. So he's very exciting to watch in that way. The other player that I'd recommend looking at, and we've seen a lot of him already, is Hassan Ali, who he hasn't been in England for a couple of years.
We love Hassan.
We know Hassan Ali.
So he's been away from all the action for a while. He was out with a stress fracture, and then he came back last year in December to play in the Pakistani domestic 4-day competition.
Has he still got his pace?
He's got his pace, and he's discovered his form as a batsman now. So he's a proper, genuine all-rounder.
Oh, okay.
In that last match that they played, his team, which was Central Punjab, tied the final. So they play it sort of like a playoff style, their version of the county championship, the Qaid-e-Azam Trophy. And in the final of that trophy, the match was actually tied because of Hassan Ali coming in at number 9 and scoring 99 in that game.
Wow.
As captain of the Central Punjab team. And as he's been captain of his domestic team, he's discovered this new love for batting, this kind of patience and maturity in his cricket. He used to be this quite young, aggressive, fiery fast bowler with that famous celebration.
The celebration, I was going to say.
That was it.
The kind of the starting a chainsaw one, that one. And he even at one stage had a necklace around his neck which had him doing his own celebration on it, which
I don't know about that.
Yeah. You need to get one of those stuff. So yeah, I mean, but he's evolved from that, from being that kind of exciting, fiery kid to like a senior, mature player in the team who can do the right thing in the right circumstance. And this year, since his comeback in the international team this year, he's taken 40 wickets across all formats in 11 matches. So that's very exciting for Pakistan to have him back in that 11.
I will never forget I think he took the wicket of MS Dhoni in the Champions Trophy final.
Yes.
He bounced him out and he got caught at deep square, and I remember that celebration and the view of Hassan Ali. He was a real star in that Champions Trophy in 2017.
He was man of the series in that.
Yeah, absolutely fabulous cricketer. And what pendant would you have?
Well, it's funny actually.
Leaning on the bar?
Who was the chap? Yes.
Something like that?
Yes, or a cat.
Ordering some room service or something like that.
In a room. And some slippers. Now, who was the chap who I did the jump with? The bloke from Jackass. What was his name?
Jonny Knoxville?
Johnny.
No, the other one. Oh, I can't remember his name. Anyway, he was involved in Jackass and everything, and he's got a Steve-O. Yes,
Steve-O. That's right.
Yes, he's got a tattoo of his own head on his back, but it's actually bigger. But it's bigger than his own head. So he's got a bigger head than he's actually got on his shoulders, tattooed on his back, which I found slightly strange.
Well, to be honest with you, Tavis, it's not really the size of the head that's the strange thing there. No. It's just the presence of the head altogether.
Yeah.
I would say.
Eyes in the back of his back.
Yes. What would you have? What would your motif be?
Oh, I don't know. On the physio's table, perhaps. The doctors. Holding my hamstring, perhaps, or something like that. Let's get a view.
Having a massage.
Something like that. Waiting at the chip shop. Let's get a view of what's going on here. Thank you for the moment, Atif. We'll stay with us.
Looking forward to that.
Very much looking forward to that Pakistan series. 3 one-dayers, 3 T20s, all covered on Test Match Special. The good news from Bristol here is that it is a lot brighter, and that horrible blanket of murkiness has slid past us over towards Ashley Down, and it looks as though all of the brollies are being shaken by people in this grandstand and just getting the surface water off them, and they are being put down, which is great news, and the tarpaulins are being removed. The groundsman is directing things as to where he wants them, which is great news, and we're seeing the unveiled cut square just be unveiled before us, and we can hear from Russell Arnold, former Sri Lankan all-rounder, on how poorly they've done. I'm afraid it's a similar situation. Russell, is this better or worse, or how do you feel about what's gone on today? There are 132 for 8 in the 35th over.
It's not gone better. I wish that murkiness you're talking about, like the weather, the murkiness that the Sri Lankans are feeling or seeing at this stage, just blows away. But it's not going to be easy as that, as those clouds being blown away back in Bristol. Charles, same mistakes being repeated, and a change is what we would like to see, but that's not coming. Batsmen being dismissed the same way every game. It's just not helping anyone's cause. It's making it too easy for England. I'm sure they wouldn't be enjoying it. They'd like to be pushed a bit more, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I'm going to put you in the role of head coach now, Russell. Congratulations on the appointment. What do you say? How do you overcome a situation where, it's the old definition of insanity, isn't it? Doing the same things and expecting different results. It's not happening for Sri Lanka. So what do you go into the dressing room and say, or try and change the style of play? How do you do it?
I would go to individuals, actually. At this stage, for me, it's about looking inside. In England, you say look up, look down, whereas in other countries, you'd say look down, look at the pitch and decide what you're going to do. England, look up, look down. But Sri Lanka, look inside. each player at this stage has to find something extra from inside and show some resilience. I think that's where you need to start. One of the batsmen to play a blinder, to make a big difference in that way, and then suddenly you'll see the others performing around them. Now, that's what's not happening. I think a new hero needs to pop up. It's something like that, because it's a very difficult scenario to go and expect them to play a brand of cricket, to give them a game plan, or to say, let's do this or let's do that, because they are not in control of anything. And there's no clarity in roles, or probably even trust in each other at this stage as how to take the game forward. So that's where I would go to certain individuals and try to motivate them to give that extra oomph, a special knock, 100, 120 all of a sudden, and things can look a little different.
It's obviously demoralising if you are within the Sri Lankan camp. They have a good coach. Mickey Arthur has been a good coach for a long period of time. They've got, the performance director, the overlord of Sri Lankan cricket in Tom Moody. These are two vastly experienced people, and there is agreed there's only so much they can do. But what can they do if you're Tom Moody or Mickey Arthur?
Well, they're looking for... Tom Moody's role is actually to observe. His role in Sri Lanka at the moment is to try and put the first-class structure in place so that we play cricket of higher standard, which also will help in a big way, so that when they come out to play international cricket, they're better equipped. They're better at handling situations, better at handling even better skilled players, playing against better skilled players. But Mickey Arthur, he's in charge there, but at this stage on tour, not much really, but look for something from individuals.
Here's the thing, Russell, about the domestic structure. Is there a will for those within cricket in Sri Lanka to actually change this for the better, or is there resistance at all?
There is resistance because the argument is that the club structure worked for us for a long time, which is true, which I agree, and I'd like the club structure because the way the Sri Lankan economy is set, Colombo is central. Wherever you grow up in, you come to Colombo finding your jobs, and we are semi-professionals till we really play for Sri Lanka. Otherwise, your life is going nowhere. So I don't mind the club structure, but the fact is that we have far too many clubs playing first-class cricket. In our day, it was much more condensed. There were 10, 12 clubs maybe. But now there are 26 teams playing first-class cricket, and there's quantity, but no quality at all. So even if you want to put it right, cut down the number of clubs that are playing. But I believe the next season there's going to be something called the National League, where 5 teams will play, and the better players from all these clubs will fit in there. You could call it a provincial, you could call it the National League, whatever it is, but it's going to be of a higher standard with the best playing in five teams. So that's a way forward.
Just letting you know that here there will be an umpire inspection when the covers are fully off. It's not been a huge deluge, so one would hope that actually resumption of play once the covers are on will be relatively short. The main covers on the pitch are on, and the bowlers' run-ups are covered still. They're just being soaked up with any rain that is standing on those tarpaulin covers. Just final one for you, Russell, and I know this is, within club structures and cricket in this country, people are very conscious about their own clubs. Now, if they were certain clubs within Sri Lanka that were then deemed first class, or that you reduce the number of first class clubs in that way, there would be a little bit of uprising, would there not, from those who weren't necessarily selected for that job?
Yes, there would be, but there are clubs who don't have the infrastructure. There are clubs without grounds. They hire and practice at different clubs. So the problem was, how did they come into existence? But then that's already happened, so you've got to look forward and maybe go to a promotion-demotion system. They tried that before, but then again, one of the better clubs fell in the relegation zone, and the number of teams going down changed. So these type of things did happen in the past, but now you you do really need to look at it and tighten up. So the National League, playing that National League with 5 teams, none of the clubs can complain. They're just going to be playing more cricket. That's another concern for me. Is there going to be too much cricket and you end up playing for the sake of playing it?
All right then, Russell, thank you so much for your conversation. Hopefully we can bring you some cricket before too long, as those tarpaulins from the bowlers' ends are being dragged off by 3 or 4 groundsmen, all decked out in black with yellow trim. Well, we can check also on the county scores now. Really important matches in the county championship starting today. Kevin Howells is at Edgbaston, where he was hoping to watch Dom Sibley, Ben Stokes and others. Unfortunately, similar situation. We've had some cricket here, Kevin Howells. How about you in Edgbaston?
And we've had some cricket.
Yeah.
We
yeah.
haven't.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry.
Have you not had any?
No. No. It's good of you to notice. We did get a toss. Durham won the toss, and they elected to have a ball, but they haven't had a chance to do so. As you say, Ben Stokes is in this Durham lineup. He's not played championship cricket since 2018, so it'd be great to see him turn out for Durham at some point, and fingers crossed. Although the forecast isn't great for the next few days, we will do over the next few days here in Birmingham. Dom Sibley, as I say, lining up for Warwickshire. We're at the stage of the season, for those that need explaining, and perhaps there are a few, and that's fair enough, because it's a little bit different this year. We've got a county championship season which has had a bit of a break for some Vitality Blast matches, but basically it's in 2 main phases. We're still in phase 1, and that phase is for all 18 teams divided into these divisions of 6 to try and end up in the top 2, so they then go through to Division 1 for the second phase of the season come September. And if you're in Division 1, you perhaps will end the season as county champions. If you're in Divisions 2 and 3, well, that is where the area of debate is really, in terms of whether this conference system can continue in future years. But we're still very much in the unknown area, even though we're in the penultimate round of matches, as to who will end up in the top 2 of groups 1, 2 or 3, and that's the stage we are at the moment. But as you say, including here in Birmingham, where I'm not too certain whether today is going to be one of those really frustrating days. It probably will be. The umpires have just been out, had a look again now, that every time you think it's dried up and perhaps the ground stuff can clear up, that it starts to rain again. But I'm looking out on this Edgbaston outfield at the moment, Charles, and I have to say it's not looking hopeful, because there are huge puddles, massive puddles out there at the moment. It's going to take the ground staff, Gary and his team, a long time to clear this up. So we wait and see whether we get any cricket on this opening day of matches. But what I can do is just quickly run down other areas where I'm afraid it is a pretty similar picture, but not everywhere in terms of the weather. So we go down the cards, the game involving Lancashire and Kent, which may or may not include Jimmy Anderson, of course, for Lancashire. That game at the moment is start delayed due to rain. Yorkshire and Northants in Group 3, that's, remember, the top 2 go through to Division 1. That's third versus second, and Yorkshire, with some action there, 28 overs so far, have got to 61 for 2, and that includes quite a shock move for many people. Sam Northeast moving initially on loan up to Yorkshire. Well, he made his debut this morning. It wasn't the best of starts. He was out for only 3, but Yorkshire is 61 for 2 in that game against Northants. They are hoping to start at 2:15 in the game in Group 3, the game between Sussex and Glamorgan. Nottinghamshire in Group 1 are taking on Derbyshire, and Derbyshire 60 for 3 in that game. Important matches in Group 2, where Hampshire and Surrey could still qualify in the top 2. Well, Hampshire is 79 for 1. Against the Surrey team, which includes Carl Jameson, of course. But anyway, Hampshire going along at 79 for 1 at the moment. Somerset, what a start for them against Leicestershire. Leicestershire without 7 players who are having to isolate and missing out on that game, and Somerset have made a strong start with Devon Conway on his Somerset Championship debut. He's had a pretty impressive summer already, has he not, with New Zealand, but 132 for no wicket, that match there against Leicestershire. And that's where we're at, I'm afraid. The weather is causing 1 or 2 problems, and hopefully it'll clear up, if not later today, in time for a reasonable start tomorrow.
It's a strange time of year, isn't it, Kevin, where both competitions, the Blast and the County Championship, overlap. So the Blast hasn't finished its group stages yet at all.
No. There's still plenty going on there. It's been a terrific competition. That's had its problems with the weather, particularly seemingly down in the southeast. But
Sussex, I think, isn't it? Sussex on 5?
Yeah, exactly. And that's not a northerner having a go, because, you know, I don't do that sort of thing. But they've had problems down there. But there's been some terrific. I mean, how many Tide matches have there been, for example?
Lots have had 3.
And hat-tricks. I was there the other night for that one where Lockie Ferguson picked up that one in that Roses match. as well as that delivery, which ended up on which strip, 2 or 3 away. It was quite an amazing last over of an amazing game. So the competition has been a great success, and they've had some really good names in it as well. And bearing in mind, right at the start of the competition, you had plenty of England players involved. They've done really well in the Blast, but yeah, they've got at least another 2 or 3 rounds to come of that before we work out who's going to go into the quarter-finals and then finals day. For this penultimate round of championship matches, we've got this week and then we've got next week, and after that we'll be able to work out who's going through to Division 1 in September. And then, of course, we've got the Royal London One Day Cup, which will be played at the same time as the 100, and lots of attention being focused on who's going to get the bigger crowds. Will it be for the 100 or will it be for the Royal London? The Royal London, obviously, and increasingly so with so many of the big names having pulled out of the 100. The Royal London is going to be quite a youthful looking competition. However, we will see who gets the bigger supports, because there's some cracking games in that Royal
overseas
London.
Players are still allowed, to play in the Royal London One Day Cup, aren't they?
They are. How many will be around, I'm not too sure, because of course we know from the 100's perspective that many have decided that it's not for them. So yeah, it's that's going to be a fascinating period of the summer coming up in a couple of weeks' time. The 100 starts on July the 21st. I think the Royal London is the day after in terms of it starting. But yeah, there's plenty of interest going on. And from the championship point of view, the real interest is what's going to happen in September. Not so much in who's going to win the championship. That, of course, is going to be the big story. But in terms of going forward, whether or not those teams, those 12 teams who don't make Division 1, whether the season just falls away for them. And if it does, I think that will have quite a big impact and say over whether or not the conference system will remain. But, we have to wait and see on that one.
Absolutely. Well, I wish you better weather at Edgbaston.
Thank you.
I do, and that is a genuine thought. As well as we know each other, sometimes you know when I'm taking the mick, and in this instance, I am wishing good weather on the West Midlands. So thank you so much. Great
Cheers,
to talk to you,
Daggers.
Kevin. And the good news is, even though Kevin's struggling with the weather at Edgbaston, we are not doing here, because the covers have been removed. We have an imminent start time of 2:20, so that's in 6 minutes' time. So yes, Devon Conway really looked like he was going to struggle in county cricket after his really poor introduction to Test cricket, his 200 at Lords, and he had to be doing it against Leicestershire, didn't he, down at Taunton? Anyway, I'm sure delighted, Vic Marks.
Well, it is a return to Taunton for Devon Conway,
Well,
of
it
course,
is, yeah.
who played for the second team about 10 years ago, and I don't think anyone spotted how good he was then. But and I watched a bit of stream the other night of the. He's batted nearly every over in the T20. Everyone else has been getting out around him. And then I looked up and I saw Tom Banton. He's not playing. Who's keeping wicket? Devon Conway. And who's doing it very competently? Devon Conway. So we're quite keen on young Devon.
Yes. It's a shame you didn't spot him 10 years ago, Victor, and your wealth of scouting.
I was cricket chairman then.
You were the guy that didn't sign the Beatles, weren't you?
However, I would like to point out, and now that I'm nothing to do with it, we did sign Devon Conway before he got his double 100. That must have saved a few bob.
Well, I'm sure it did. I'm sure the accountants are more than happy with it.
Whatever we paid for him, I think he's earning it at the moment. He's scored runs in the T20. As I say, he's keeping wicket, and now he's opening the batting and still there.
He just loves being on the field, doesn't he? Every side he's selected for, there's not many times that he's actually stuck in the dressing room.
It's an amazing story, though, isn't it? How he's had to wait for so long. I mean, he played up in the Midlands. He played up in Derbyshire, I think. That was as well.
I think he went up as well to Nelson in the Lancashire League.
So he's been round all the port of calls for a lot of overseas youngsters who want to try and break through or expand their games. He's done all those sort of hard yards. Eventually ending up doing the similar sort of thing in Wellington, New Zealand. And glory be, at the age of about 29, wasn't it? He suddenly emerges as what seems like a complete player who can keep wicket as well, who you feel is going to be around the Test scene for another 5 years and will score a lot of runs at that time.
And also in all 3 formats, the way he burst onto the scene in T20 cricket, that 99 he scored against Australia and in Wellington, I mean, hugely impressive and well... More power to him. Now the rope is being taken round, or it has been taken round, with a tractor and a young man who's done a good lap as well. tugging that rope around the outfield just to take any surface water off. There's 2 orange and blue bibbed security men just making sure that no one scampers onto the field, and the ripple of applause you can see is for the umpires making their way back out, Michael Goff and David Milnes. I doubt there's a taller umpiring pair in the world. They wander out to the middle, as do Eoin Morgan and the England side, with Sri Lanka 132 for 8, with Dasun Shanaka 29 not out. Dushmantha Chameera is 2 not out. They follow on in their dark blue with yellow stripes down the side of their shirts, and they will resume before too long. And for England, Victor, as I leave you and Atif comes in to replace me, they want to wrap this up pretty quickly.
I'm sure they do. And I'm sort of I looked as oddsman for this. I presume that it remains a 50-over game. Yeah, we believe so. Andy believes so, but I don't think anyone else heard that. Because I think that one's got to go in. I think you'll find.
Yeah, we're just having a few cabling issues, but that's okay. We're back on board, as are England and Sri Lanka. So Adil Rashid is going to continue. Sri Lanka 132 for 8. Sort of about half an hour ago we had that rain break. Doesn't seem to be too much rain in the air at the moment. All those very colourful, fancy umbrellas that Charles Dagnall was describing have gone down, and play can resume. How exciting, Vic.
Yeah, well, it will be quite exciting if they can bat the 50 overs. I reckon it's still a 50-over game. 16 overs, that is.
Yeah, it's
8 wickets down. Signs of a tail here.
Yeah, signs of a tail. Yeah, it's just about. Yeah. Well, Shanaka's batting quite well. He's at the non-strikers in at the moment. He's on 29 of 46 to go with the 47 he got in the previous game. So he's having a nice little run. And Chameera, well, you often have this. I'll tell you in a second. As Adil Rashid is in, lots of flight given. The ball's been driven uppishly through the covers, and it's going to run away to the boundary for 4 runs for Chameera. Well, don't know what they talked about in that little rain break, but it's a bit of intent from Sri Lanka. 136 for 8.
Yeah, well, it was up there, and they've got a very attacking field in the sense that there are no boundary runners, and it was just over pitch, and he played a perfectly acceptable cover drive which split the field.
Yeah, see, it seems like the plan was very much to get the batsman driving, but yeah, maybe just not that well. Rashid in once again. He's got a slip in place as well as he comes in, bowls lots of fly, given low full toss.
That's 4.
And this one's just taken an outside edge. It's going to race away to the 3rd boundary, and back-to-back boundaries for Chameera. Sri Lanka on to 140 for 8. A few smiles from the Sri Lankan supporters in the crowd.
Yeah, they've suddenly decided they're going to spread the field now. I mean, there's all sorts of absurdities potentially. I mean, we could find 2 wickets falling in 2 balls in the next over, and then I presume we have a 40-minute delay for lunch.
Well, we're going
30 minutes.
We're going to have 30 minutes for lunch, and no overs are going to be lost.
We could have 5 balls and another half an hour delay.
Yes, well, possibly, but we won't lose any overs, which is the main thing. Rashid then once again flat and quick that time, just through to the keeper. Missed by Chameera, so that's the end of an eventful restart to this game. Over to restart this game. 35 overs gone. Sri Lanka 140 for 8. Adil Rashid has now bowled 5 overs for 23.
Yeah.
As we can see the cloud just moving across the Bristol County ground, hopefully leaving us, hopefully moving away from us. I mean, I'm not very good at reading clouds, I'm afraid, but what do you make of the clouds, Vic? What's in the
Where's
clouds?
that Jonny Mitchell? Well, I think they're going in the right direction as far as we're concerned. I think that there's a nasty patch over at sort of area of 3rd man, but I think that's leaving us. So I think we've got to look that way for the weather. And it doesn't look too bad, frankly. Better than we all thought, actually, when we thought about this game this morning.
Yes, and Tom Curran's going to come back into the attack. He's got 2 overs to go, and this would be quite terrific if he pulls this off, because he's got 4 for 28 right now. He could have a 5-wicket haul to follow on from his brother's 5-wicket haul in the previous game. I'm going to challenge Andy Zaltzman to a stat in a second. A full ball from Curran has just been played to backward point for no run. So here's what I want, Andy.
He's sweating up already.
Here's what I'd like, Andy, if possible. Yeah. I'd like to know if there's ever been an instance of brothers or sisters taking 5-wicket hauls in consecutive matches.
Well, I was given this challenge before the break.
Oh, so you probably easy.
I don't have a siblings filter on my database, which makes it tricky. And I just had my lunch, so I haven't got around to it yet. But I'll dig around. But I don't think it's happened before.
It'll be incredible if it does. As Tom Curran in once again, this time just flicked into the leg side for a single, and the score moves on to 141 for 8. What's making you giggle?
Well, it's the modern equivalent, it's not on my database at the moment, to the dog ate my homework, isn't it, or something like that.
Now, come on.
In what way was siblings getting consecutive 5 as part of my homework?
I thought you said you were asked about it a while back.
Oh, Vic Marks is taking you to task, isn't he? Yeah.
Well, not that much.
Outstanding.
What about Hadley's? I'm just trying to help now. There's always a possibility of a Dale Hadley helping Richard. I don't know. I'm just trying to help now because you're peeved.
In comes Curran again. Full ball just pushed into the covers for no run. Well, our very own Isabel Westbury got in touch with you a little bit earlier.
Oh, right. Good.
She told me about the Pakistani sisters, Sharmeen Khan and Shazia Khan, who were the founding sisters of Pakistani women's cricket. Now, I don't know. They're both bowlers, but I don't know if they managed to record 5-wicket hauls, and certainly not in consecutive games. This is a hard one. I appreciate that, Zoltz, but if anybody can, you can. Zoltz Viz is on it. I know he can do it. Anyway, Tom Curran, 141 for 8. In he comes to bowl. This time just pushed defensively by Dushmantha Chameera to extra cover for no run. 141 for 8, the score remains. Chameera's been very impressive with the ball in this series.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to do that sometimes. Take me through what the mentality of a bowler is like when you're performing and not everybody else around you necessarily is.
Well, it makes you feel better, really.
Does it really?
Well, not.
Do you not feel like, I imagine there's a bit of a burden that comes with it.
No.
Okay. In comes Tom Curran. The ball's just been squirted down to fine leg by Chameera for a single. I mean,
you've got this unspoken status as you strut around. You all know that you're performing hopelessly, and I'm just trying to keep you afloat. It's lovely. No, it's not lovely. I don't know. It's a weird. What is slightly odd is that because Sri Lanka have been defending small totals, in a curious way that takes the pressure off a bowler. In that, you'd find that, although it doesn't apply so much to this England team, batsmen sometimes play slightly differently if they're only chasing 180.
Yes.
So your figures might look better because they're not having to take so many risks.
Sure.
So you can look statistically slightly better as a consequence of that.
That's an interesting way to look at it. Tom Curran in short and played uppishly into the square leg area by Shanaka. Wasn't completely in control of it, but in the end it trickles down to Sam Curran at fine leg for a single. 143 for 8. 36 overs gone now. Curran's got 1 over left to record that 5 for Vic Marks.
And the other thing on that tackle, I suppose, for someone like Chameera, who's got some special pace and he's quite an explosive kind of bowler, is that he is kind of liberated in the sense that he's got to hunt for wickets.
Yes.
The pressure or the notion that, I've just got to keep it tight and we might be okay, has gone out the window. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, it is quite, I suppose, you're going to lose the game probably, but you are liberated to go for broke. Which can sometimes free you up a bit, I suppose. I'm sort of grasping at straws a bit.
Well, the scenario, you're right, that the scenario does simplify your tactical approach, as you say, because you've got to take wickets to win the game. We'll see what he does later with the ball. For now, Adil Rashid has the ball in his hand, and this time he's just been pushed into the covers for a single. Shanaka raced down for the first one, and there's a diving stop in the deep. In fact, they managed to get back for 2. Good running by the Sri Lankans. Sam Curran there tidying up. Sunglasses have fallen off his head.
Amazing modern field this, and there are 5 men so-called in the ring, and they're all behind the bat.
For a spinner.
And the 4 men in front of the wicket are on the boundary. So there's ones galore there if he can just get bat on it.
Rashid in once again. This time soft hands from Shanaka, plays the ball into the covers for no run. 145 for 8. Yeah, it's interesting that they would play this kind of field, almost kind of inviting that drive,
I guess the field will change when the batsmen change. They're giving Shanaka
a bit more respect.
Yeah, and want him off strike.
He's earned it. Down the track comes Shanaka. He's hit it very, very hard, but long on came round very, very quickly. David Willey here at long on, just below us at the pavilion end, makes a superb sliding stop. He saved 3 there, just the one taken by the batsman. 146 for 8.
I thought when he hit that was going to be 4. He hit it so straight. He must have been very straight down here. He did well there, Willey. Now the field does change. The slip comes in, and a lot of the boundary, in fact, all the boundary fielders except for the man at square leg, saying to Chameera, well, you can't hit any more boundaries like you have done, have you?
In comes Rashid, left alone by Chameera through to the keeper for no run, showing a different side of his game there, Chameera, after those aggressive strokes in the previous over. But it's quite transparent what Eoin Morgan's doing here, really. But I suppose that doesn't matter if it's effective.
No.
Adil Rashid just abandoning that delivery as he ran in towards it, lost his footing, goes back to the top of his mark, takes a breath, a few rotations of the ball, and he's back in again. Bowls, and Chameera on the front foot in defence. 146 for 8. 1 delivery to come in this over.
And they spread the field a bit now, saying if you want to have a 1, you can have 1 more or less, because they want Chameera on strike at the beginning of the next one if they don't get him out now.
Eoin Morgan's put himself in a leg slip position for this delivery. As Rashid in once more, good length outside the off stump, pushed into that gap in front of point by Chameera. They take a single, so he will retain the strike. Sri Lanka 147 for 8 after 37 overs. England just require those 2 wickets to wrap this up. Adil Rashid has been wicketless in the last 3 outings, I should say, for England. This could be his 4th consecutive wicketless outing. They'll be very keen just to get 1 in the right column.
Yeah, he will.
Even if you're sort of a world-class spinner and you've got this extraordinary record and skill and reputation, it still plays on your mind, right? When you go a few games wicketless.
I mean, we watch, particularly in Test cricket, you can watch even someone like Jimmy Anderson who gets a wicket and suddenly he's relaxed and he's off and even they want a wicket.
As in comes Tom Curran, ball's been pushed to backward point.
That's
not about a single.
Oh, it's 4.
It's going to be 4 overthrows at the non-striker's end. There was a shy at the stumps there. Tom Curran's not happy, but Sri Lanka will take 4.
No one at mid-on to back up. Went to David Willey, and they're not averse to throwing the ball in the modern game. There's just a 1 in 10 chance they hurl it, and there was no one backing up, so that's a real bonus.
Yeah, he just raised his hand to apologise. There is a few, it pains me to say, a few drops of rain. Again, I see a few more umbrellas going up in the stands again. Oh dear, 151 for 8. The Sri Lankan 150 up now. As Tom Curran with 3 slips comes in, and Chameera fully behind that one in defence, pushes into the covers for no run. 151 for 8. 37.2 overs gone. Some colourful umbrellas on the stand to our left-hand side here at the pavilion at the Bristol County Ground. I can see those waterproofs, what do you call it, rain jackets, the kind of things you would wear on a log flume. Those things being pulled over by some of the crowd here as Tom Curran comes in short, and Chameera just sways out of the way of that one as it flies through to the keeper. Some aggression from Tom Curran. 82 miles an hour. A quick, threatening short ball.
Well played, actually.
Yeah.
You played it like a batsman. Just watched it go by. Swayed a little bit.
You see images of Mickey Arthur with the rain falling in front of him. It seems quite symbolic, really, of his tour, doesn't it? 3 slips in place, Tom Curran in, and this time the ball's just been worked into the onside defensively, kind of fended really by Chameera. No run, 151 for 8. Those who've forgotten to bring their umbrellas and their hoodies and their log flume waterproofs are being they're having to improvise with their head coverings. I saw somebody holding a plate of chips over their head.
Oh dear, that's a real dilemma, isn't it?
Well,
stay dry or sacrifice your chips.
Well, you could have soggy chips, I suppose. In comes Curran, nearly taking the outside edge through to the keeper. That was nearly the 5th wicket. Joe Root's got his hands on his head. He's got 1 ball left now, Tom Curran, to get this fifer. It's been a terrific bowling effort from him as well. Often plays second fiddle to his brother in the England pecking order, but a very, very talented bowler and really showing his skill here today at the Bristol County Ground on this soggy-ish day. 4 slips in place. Tom Curran runs in for his final delivery, and he comes. Ball nearly takes the outside edge. In the end, it's a play and a miss from Chameera. Well, that is the end of a terrific spell from Tom Curran, and it's applauded by everybody here at the Bristol County Ground. People dropping their umbrellas just to applaud that effort from Tom Curran. 4 wickets for 35 from his 10 overs. Terrific stuff, wasn't it, Mick Monk?
Yeah. I mean, he's not the most gifted, I don't think, or the most terrifying bowler. He's not the most gifted cricketer probably in the setup or even in the family, but he makes the most of what he's got, and he's a fierce competitor. I've got this theory about cricketing brothers, actually, is that it's very often it's the second one who is the one who's been supremely gifted and has got the flair.
Yes.
So, and I can quote you a few. There's Hollyoaks for a start.
Yes, of course.
Chappells, Ian Chappell, Greg Chappell.
It's Adil Rashid coming in. A little bit wider this time, struck beautifully by Shanaka, only as far as the cover sweeper for a single.
They're the Crows, Jeff Crow, Martin Crow, though, was delightful, hugely talented batsman.
The Wars of Australia.
The Wars, Steve Craggy.
Mark, yes.
I mean, it's only a few minutes between.
But they were key minutes, weren't they?
Yeah, key minutes, you see. And Mark Wall, a fluent, a graceless, effortless-looking type.
Rashid in again, full big swing from Chameera, and there's a big appeal for a stumping. We're going to have a look at this. Jonny Bairstow, like lightning behind the stumps, whipped off the bails, but we're not sure. It's going to be a balance issue. I don't think the batsman came out of his crease, but perhaps lost his balance, Vic.
Bairstow, Bairstow's sure, he thinks it's out. He's gone on a celebration, and he actually is in a very good place to know.
Yes, 152 for 8 could become 152 for 9. We'll find out momentarily. As Adil Rashid just bowled a lovely delivery there, just turned away from the big swing.
Okay, I'm just going to need to see ultra edge just to confirm there's no edge there, please. And then we'll go
could take a while. This, I think Bairstow was convinced by the stumping rather than the caught behind, but they're going to check for the caught behind first.
Yes, it seemed pretty clear that there was a lot of space, clear daylight.
I'm only going by Bairstow's reaction.
Yeah.
Which may not be totally reliable, but here we go.
Well, there's certainly no edge on the ball. We can tell there's a good 6 inches between bat and ball.
When ready, I'll go to your best side on angle, please.
Just hearing the voice of the fourth official.
Well, I think that's looking dubious for the batsman. The line, remember, belongs to the keeper.
Yes, and it appears that the foot is on the line rather than behind the line, and will be given out, but we'll wait and see. They might do a little zoom in there, just to make sure that there's no little
it's very
smidge of the foot.
There isn't really a line.
See, if they've got a reverse angle now. Again, it's so difficult to tell because the line.
Thank you. I'm ready with my decision.
Richard Kettleborough's
he's going to give it out.
Third umpire, and
it's a virtual line.
Well, it's very marginal either way. We're going to find out. The crowd is oohing in anticipation.
He's out.
It's out. Well, what a superb piece of work by Jonny Bairstow. Found that tiny little margin. The batsman didn't move, having swung and missed. But Jonny Bairstow, alive to the situation, took the bails off, and England have their 9th wicket. Sri Lanka 152 for 9. And England will be desperate to get this last wicket before any more rain can intervene here.
Get the game going. Well, Rashid will be pleased by that because we've noted that he's had a barren spell, but Bairstow will love it too, because he hasn't pulled a fast one, but he spotted it. He knew the keeper. He watches the ball, but he knows where that foot is. And Bairstow was the solitary England player out there who was absolutely convinced that would be out, and he was right.
Absolutely.
A nice leg break. He went for the cover drive. He wasn't romping down the pitch. He just stretched a little. His back foot just came forward a fraction. No doubt, I expect Chameera thought he was still behind the line, but he wasn't. He was on what has become a more or less a virtual line, I have to grant you, because the paint has sort of faded.
I suppose all those covers going on and off from it as well didn't help.
But he didn't waste much time, Richard Kettleborough. He was pretty convinced. And away we go. 152 for 9. Well, Predict Viz will be fretting now. They've got to get another 31.
Yeah, well, I think Predict Viz was being a little bit generous in the first instance.
Well, they might get him, but, I'm not so sure. Who's the new batsman?
This is Asitha Fernando, who's come to the crease. Okay. He's got a best of 9. As in comes Rashid, who bowls a quicker one. Sort of a bouncer from Rashid.
That's the quickest ball I've ever seen Rashid bowl. I don't know if it's come up.
Extraordinary. Rashid just powered that through. We don't have any pace on it. I think it was one just to check if Jonny Bairstow was awake, which he was. He took it very cleanly.
72.
72, he said.
In comes Adil Rashid. The ball strikes